Everyone can be seated. State, please call your next witness. Sergeant, please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
You may take your seat.
Thank you, sir.
Please speak loudly and clearly. You may examine when you're ready.
Will you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Certainly. Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Corbett, and that's C-O-R-B-I-T-T, and I'm a sergeant with the City of Tallahassee Police Department.
And how long have you worked with TPD?
29 years and 11 months.
And what unit are you in at TPD?
I currently supervise the Technical Operations Unit.
Can you tell me a little bit about your training and experience in order to supervise the Technical Operations Unit?
Certainly. I have just under 2,000 hours of general technical training, which would cover sort of all realms of law enforcement technology, camera installations, audio, video monitoring, forensics, all kinds of, again, all the ways that we use technology to assist in criminal investigations. I have just over 1,000 hours of that is dedicated to communication record analysis or cell phone analysis. And that includes the obtaining, analysis, mapping, all the things that we do with communication records specifically to assist in criminal investigations.
Okay, and have you also taught in the field of digital forensics?
I do. I teach communication record analysis to law enforcement officers, other law enforcement agencies, prosecutors associations, other groups. Yes.
And how long have you been supervisor of that unit?
Since 2012.
How many hours of specialized training in historical communication records analysis do you have?
Just over 1,000.
And what is historical communication record analysis?
Communication or historical communication record analysis would be kind of a general term for the use of communication records. And when I talk about communication records, I mean primarily cell phone records that we get from the carriers. They may be forensic records or reports that we get when we're able to do a forensic analysis of a phone, when we have the actual device and can download data. But we take all that information and we analyze it really in whatever way the investigator or the investigation needs. Oftentimes that's location analysis. We're trying to put handsets, are they consistent or could they have been at the scene of a crime? Could they have been somewhere else? Where might other evidence be? So a lot of that work has to do with the locations of the handsets. Sometimes it's communications, who communicated with who, when, how often, those kind of things to help establish relationships. There's really a number of ways that we can use those records and the analysis of those records, again, to assist in criminal investigations.
And have you ever testified in court in the field of historical communication records analysis where you've given an expert opinion?
I have, yes.
About how many times?
123.
And those are all my questions as to his qualifications, Judge.
Defense wish to provide witness.
There you are.
Is there a challenge to his ability to provide an opinion in the field of historical communication record analysis?
There you are.
Members of the jury, while this witness testifies today, he will be permitted to provide you with an opinion in the area of historical communication record analysis. You may continue.
So in your position at TPD, you mentioned that part of your everyday duties is going to be pulling cell phone records from cell phone companies. Is that right?
That's correct.
And are those records called call detail records?
That's sort of a general term that we give to a broad range of records. Call detail records, we generally talk about specific call logs, and maybe voice or text. We have other types of reports, subscriber information, other types of location reports that are more specific, but generally, yes, we call that whole group of records call detail records.
Are those types of records ones that are kept in the normal course of business of phone companies?
They are, yes.
And are they kept by an automated system that would have knowledge of those or of those calls and text communications?
Yes.
Are you familiar with how to read and interpret the records?
I am, yes.
And in this case, did you review phone records for State's Exhibit 91, call detail records of Luis Rivera. 92, call detail records of Sigfredo Garcia. 93, call detail records of Wendy Adelson. 94, call detail records of Donna Adelson. 95, Charlie Adelson's call detail records. 96, Harvey Adelson's call detail records. And 97, Catherine Magbanawala's call detail records. And finally 98, Dan Markel's call detail records.
Yes.
Okay. And did all those call detail records come with a certification from each phone carrier certifying that those are authentic records of that carrier?
They did, yes.
Just in a second. I'm going to show you States 55, which is already in evidence. I got to turn you off and turn you back on here. Actually, I'll just show it to you so you can hear me. Looking at States 55, this is our chart.
Yes.
Okay, here you see some phone numbers below each person's face and name.
Yes.
Okay. Have you been able to review a chart like that before?
Yes.
Okay. Looking at those numbers, are those the numbers for each person that correspond with the call detail records that you reviewed for each person and you're going to be testifying about in your testimony?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you. At this time, Your Honor, I would move into evidence States Exhibit 91 through 98, the certified business records.
Any objection? States 91 through 98 are admitted.
Thank you. In addition to all of those call detail records we just went through, did you also review traffic tickets that were received in the summer of 2014 by Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera?
I did, yes.
Did you also review car rental agreements, 2 from Comfort Rental in Miami and 1 from Save Gas Rental in Miami?
I did, yes.
Did you also review surveillance video from Premier Gym, as well as from Spirion, which is a GPS company that is the company that has the GPSs on the rental cars?
Yes, to be clear, the Premier was video, the GPS was latitude, longitude coordinates.
Thank you. Sorry about that. And did you base your opinions in this case? Oh, and did you also receive, in addition to all those things, Cellbrites and returns from subpoenas from email addresses as well?
Yes, so there were forensic analysis conducted of several handsets and, yes, an iCloud or multiple iCloud accounts.
Okay, that gave you access to emails as well?
And a separate actual email legal demand returns.
Okay. Did you base your opinions in this case on all of those records that we just discussed?
Yes.
Now, are many of those records voluminous? I'm talking hundreds, even thousands of pages.
Yes, they are.
Did you prepare, instead of having to go through each page for the jury during this presentation, did you prepare a summary in order to show the jury what the phone company's records say in correlation with the other evidence in this case about the subjects in this case, phone activity and locations?
Yes.
And will you be relying on that summary for your testimony here today?
I will, yes.
Quickly, also in the summary, are there excerpts from Cellbrites?
Yes.
What is a Cellbrite?
Well, a Cellbrite has come to mean many things. When we do forensic examinations of computers or phones, we use a variety of different forensic tools. One of the more common ones that we use is a product from Cellbrite, and often the most common report format. So once we do that forensic analysis, then it generates a report for us that allows us to visualize all of that information, location information, text message content, emails. And so that report is generally called a Cellbrite report.
Okay. And Judge, at this time, I would move State's Exhibit 73, which is the summary of all of these records that Sergeant Corbett has put together and he'll be testifying to today, a summary that will go into evidence with the jury, subject to the court's ruling.
Very well. Any objection?
Subject to the court's ruling.
73 is admitted. You may continue.
Okay. Now, did you also create a PowerPoint of this summary to use on the projector here in court during your testimony?
Yes, actually, that's a representation of the PowerPoint.
Okay. And some of the items that are in the PowerPoint that are already in evidence, emails and that sort of thing, they won't be in the summary, but we will go over those in your PowerPoint, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Judge, at this time, I'd ask for permission for Sergeant Corbett to use his PowerPoint to show a demonstrative of the summary exhibit.
You may proceed.
Thank you.
You'll need to unmute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, so you told us what call detail records from phone companies are. Can you tell us, or can you show us an example of what they look like and show us what's contained in them?
I can. So this is an example of call detail records from AT&T. And again, when we talk about call detail records, we're talking about this chronological listing of events. And those events may be voice calls, text messages, data sessions. And that varies a little bit by carrier as to what exactly they retain and provide for us in the call detail records return. But the call detail records have a few basic sections. Obviously, there's a place that tells us the date and time of this event. And oftentimes, those may be in other time zones. So we have to do a conversion to our local time to make sure that we're talking about the accurate time for that event. But that's one basic section. The other section tells us the phone numbers. So obviously we have the target number or the number for which the records were obtained. And then we have the other numbers that that number is communicating with. So here we see, again, the phone numbers being communicated with. If it's voice calls, we see a duration or how long that phone call lasted. And we can tell sort of if these are incoming or outgoing calls based on which phone number is doing the originating or terminating. So from this section of the records, we look at, again, calling patterns, calling frequencies, those things. There's a few other pieces of information there, but the other one that we frequently look at is here, which is the location information. And for these particular records, they provide us both a numerical identifier for the location of that cell site, and they also provide a latitude and longitude. And again, this is the location of the cell site or cell tower that the handset was communicating with for that particular event. This is not a location for the phone, but again, rather the tower that it's communicating with.
And can you quickly kind of explain more about how you determine a location from that information to be able to know what the location is of a cell phone at a certain time?
Sure. So very simply, we'll take the location of the cell site and we will plot that on a map. And in this presentation, we will see several locations for handsets, and they may be represented by a colored dot, as you see here, a blue dot. And so that dot represents a location of the cell site or the cell tower for that example event that we were looking at. And sometimes just knowing where the cell site is itself is sufficient. We know that a handset chooses to communicate with the cell site that it sees with the best available signal. And that's usually the one that it's closest to, although there are numbers of factors that affect what cell tower or cell site a handset might choose to communicate with. So sometimes just knowing where the cell tower is enough. But we also know that most of our cell sites are broken down into multiple sides or sectors. It means they have antennas that are facing different directions. And the cell carrier, the company, most often provides us not only with the location of the cell site, but also the side or the sector that the handset was communicating with. So here we would generally expect that one sector covers about halfway to the next sector. You can see some dashed lines that are drawn here, and that would be the approximate transition areas around the cell site. So in theory, if you were to get in your car and drive circles around a cell site, you would transition from sector to sector as you went round and round. And from that, again, we would expect certain locations relative to certain sectors to be serviced by that part of the cell site, which we can kind of see here. When we display those or we see those, here this particular cell site that was, or sector that was used for this event was at 215 degrees, and that's the cardinal direction, like 360 degrees. So this is at 215, a little past due south, a little to the west, and you can see that that is illustrated here by the large blue arrow. So when we're representing a cell site and sector that the handset was using, we will use a large colored arrow so we know that's the particular sector that was being communicated with. And when we do our analysis, again, we understand that that sector goes approximately halfway around to the other sectors. And so when we do our location analysis, we would include or exclude certain locations. And we would say that locations that are in close proximity and on the right side of the cell site and sector are possible locations for the handset, and then other locations might not be.
Can you say exactly or precisely where on this map a certain cell phone is?
No.
Okay, but you would be able to tell us what cell site that cell phone is communicating with if it has location data, and the sector of the cell site, the particular sector that it's communicating with.
Yes, so one of the basic things is we can only make a determination about where a handset was when we have a record or an event. And while different companies and different handsets and different technologies create different amounts of records, we can only, again, make a determination when we have a record. And then, yes, we will know the location of that cell site, the orientation of the sector in most cases. And historical location analysis is about inclusion and exclusion. And we look at a location and we say, yes, this address is included in the service area, based on our opinion, is included in the service area of this particular cell site and sector, or no, a handset at the location you gave me would not be serviced by this particular cell site and sector. So we include and exclude locations. We do not say exactly where a handset was.
And is your way of saying that, you say whether a certain location is consistent or inconsistent?
Yes.
Okay. And do you sometimes get records with no location data at certain times?
That is correct, yes.
You mentioned cell brights. How do you extract data, or how does a cell bright that you've extracted from a cell phone, how does it look different in the actual cell bright report versus what we're going to see in your presentation?
So this is, and I'm on slide 11 here, this is an example of a page from a Cellbrite forensic analysis report. And so when we're able to select a variety of different information from within the Cellbrite report and create smaller reports or sort of export different pieces of data, text messages, call logs. And we can see in the actual forensic report, there is a lot of information that is contained. They try to make it appear like a conversation we're kind of all familiar with the bubbles going back and forth. But there is a lot of information that's contained in there. They are very technical and very detailed reports. So when we represent those in the presentation, to make it easier to read the actual content, we may do something more like this. So we will provide a visual indicator of who is issuing that communication, who sent that text message, and then we will focus on the content of that. But again, it's taken from that forensic report, just put into this format so it's a little easier for us to follow.
Can you walk us through Dan Markel's location on the morning that he was murdered?
Yes. So we do know, and I'm on slide 14 now, we do know that the morning of the homicide, he was at home at his residence on Trescott Drive. He did drop his children off at Creative Preschool. He went to Premier Health and Fitness and then returned to his home on Trescott Drive.
And did TPD believe that whoever shot Dan Markel was at these same locations that he was at that morning?
We did believe that him being under surveillance was a definite possibility.
Okay. And was there a Prius that was identified based on surveillance images following him that morning?
There was, from the Premier Health and Fitness.
Okay. How did TPD try to identify who was in the Prius from the phone records perspective?
So one of the first things that we did is what we call a tower dump. And that is just a request of the carriers to provide us all of the transactions that occurred through cell sites that may service a particular location for a very particular or specific time frame. So if we know that Mr. Markel was around his house at a certain time, then we can request all the phones that were around his house. And if we know he was at Creative Preschool at a certain time, then we could request all of the cell phones that may be in the area of Creative Preschool at the same time he was. Same for Premier Health and Fitness. And then we would hope that the only cell phones that would be in those exact locations at those exact times would either be Mr. Markel or whoever was following him. So that's kind of the purpose of the tower dump.
And which companies had cell sites in the areas of those locations?
We had AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, and Verizon, our major carriers at that time.
All right, so were search warrants sent to all those carriers for all of the records for the numbers who were using cell sites servicing each of those locations?
Yes.
And did you receive a lot of records in return?
Yes, we did.
I want to ask you specifically about States Exhibit 101, which is going to be the T-Mobile tower dump records, States Exhibit 102, the AT&T tower dump records, States Exhibit 103, the Verizon tower dump records, and States 104, the Sprint tower dump records. When you receive those for all four carriers, do they contain a certification certifying that they are authentic records from each of those companies?
Yes.
Okay, and did you review those records and rely on those records in your determining your results or your opinions in this case?
Yes.
At this time, I'd move States Exhibit 101 through 104 into evidence.
States 101 through 104 is admitted.
Okay, so a lot of records to go through. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Did law enforcement eventually find any one number at all of those locations where Markel was located that morning?
We did not find one number common to all of those locations.
Since you couldn't find a number with common events at all those locations, did you cross-reference all of the records with all of the phone records you had from the Adelson family to see if any of the numbers from the tower dump showed up in any of the Adelson family records?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and what did you find?
So, as I mentioned, we did not find one number that was common to all of those locations. That does not necessarily mean that the other handsets were not there, but we go back to if there's no events, then there's no records and there's nothing for us to compare to. But what we did have from the tower dump were a number of reports with cell phone numbers of cell phones or handsets that were present at those specific locations and times for us to look at or compare. What we also had was a number of CDRs or communication records from various subjects in the investigation. We use analytical software to kind of help us out with this, to crunch large numbers, but we were able to actually compare all of the handsets that were here in Tallahassee around those specific locations and times with all of the records, the phones and the phones that they were communicating with for all of our subjects in the investigation. And what we did find is, and this is slide 19, we did find a common number, this 7. That was a phone number that was present here in Tallahassee around the Premier Health and Fitness that was also in the call detail records for one of the subjects of the investigation.
And was that subject Harvey Adelson?
It was, yes.
And is this Harvey Adelson?
It is, yes.
Okay, and this is an example of his call detail records?
That is correct.
Okay, so Harvey Adelson is the husband of Donna Adelson, father of Charlie Adelson and Wendy Adelson?
Correct.
All right, can you give us more information about this call that you found?
So what we see, and this is just an excerpt, I'm on slide 20, from Mr. Adelson's, Harvey Adelson's call detail records for July 1st of 2014, and we see that 786 number I just spoke about. And this is a good example of some of the things we see with call detail records. It looks like 3 calls or 3 entries here, but this is actually just one event. And in the records, we also see the kind of the routing or the way a call like this one that was routed to voicemail, how it kind of traverses through the network. But these are 3 lines, or it looks like 3 events, but this is just one incoming phone call from that 786 number. And again, that was on July 1st of 2014 at 5:20 p.m.
Okay, so here we have this one call on July 1st, 2014. What was the duration of this one call?
The duration is listed as 37 seconds.
And 37 seconds as in, does that include the amount of time that it's taking a phone to ring?
In this case, it does not. They do provide us both a seizure time, which is how long the phone rings or how long it takes to connect, and then an overall duration.
Okay, so a 37-second call. Do we know whether this call was routed to voicemail?
This call indicates that it was routed to voicemail.
Okay, so the 37 seconds, would that include an amount of time for a voicemail to play and an amount of time for a message to be left, if a message was left?
It could, yes.
Was there any other communication in all of the phone records that you have between the 786 number you found and Harvey Adelson's phone?
No.
Who did the 786 number belong to?
So the 786 number belonged to Sigfredo Garcia.
Okay. In Sigfredo Garcia, were you able to do a frequency report for his phone records?
Yes.
What is a frequency report?
So I'm here on slide 22, and this is an example of a frequency report. And a frequency report is just going back to that analytical software that we talked about. It can tell us, or it can rank the most frequently contacted numbers for any particular target number. So it is able to rank for us in kind of from most to least frequently contacted all of the unique numbers that Mr. Garcia's phone communicated with. Now, in a frequency report like this, it would include incoming calls, outgoing calls, text messages. Unless we go in and limit the things that we're asking for, it would include all sorts of events, even some of those routing events that we saw on Mr. Adelson's records. So we don't really look at this as an exact number. We don't say, and we see here that in Mr. Garcia's frequency report, his most frequently contacted number is a number that ends in 13. We see that it assigned a frequency of over 1,600 calls. That may not mean that they actually spoke 1,600 times, but within the records, there are over 1,600 lines or events associated with that particular phone number.
Okay. And looking at this date range, you said the number ending in 1312 was his most frequent contact. Who did that number belong to?
That number belonged to Miss Catherine Magdalene.
Did you run a frequency report for her?
Same. Again, looking at the most frequently appearing number in the records, we see that her second most frequent number, the 9223, obviously the 5986 was Mr. Garcia's number.
Okay. And who did the 954254 belong to?
Mr. Adelson, Charlie Adelson.
So this is the son of Donna Adelson.
Correct.
And was Donna Adelson one of Charlie Adelson's most frequent contacts?
Yes. Again, using the frequency report just to get an idea of relationships and maybe degrees of relationships, we do see that Miss Donna Adelson's number that ends in 0997 is, at that point, his fifth most frequent communicated number.
Okay. And this is for this particular date range on the frequency report?
That is correct.
Why do we see such small numbers there?
I'm sorry?
We see very small numbers. Does that mean he just talks to a lot of different numbers? Maybe more numbers than we saw Catherine McBanwell might normally speak to on a daily basis?
Do you mean small numbers on the frequency column?
Frequency, yes, sir.
So the frequency percentage column we see here is obviously the percentage of calls for that particular number versus all the numbers that this particular phone number communicates with. So if you only communicate with very few numbers, then your percentage for each of those numbers is going to be relatively large. Charlie Adelson communicated with a number of unique phone numbers, so the overall percentage is a little lower. because again, he had a lot more unique numbers that he communicated with.
Did you do a frequency, or I'm sorry, so who does the 954 Adelson? Did you do a frequency report for her?
Correct. And we see here, this is slide 28. We see that the 9223 of Mr. Charlie Adelson for this date range is her most frequently contacted number.
Did any other number appear in the tower dump records you received from the phone carriers who was a frequent contact of Sigfredo Garcia?
Yes. As I move on to slide 29, going back to Mr. Garcia's frequency report, and again, comparing the numbers that the subjects of the investigation communicated with versus numbers that were physically present in Tallahassee, either around Premier or around Mr. Markel's residence or Creative Preschool, what we did find was this 305 number that was, again, present in Mr. Garcia's records. One of his more frequently contacted numbers was also physically here in Tallahassee.
And who did that number belong to?
That number belonged to Mr. Luis Rivera.
Can we see your next slide of the organizational chart, please? Did anybody in this chart have phone contact with Garcia or Rivera, down at the bottom, during 2014, other than the one 37-second call between Garcia and Harvey Adelson on July 1st, and obviously Catherine McVanois?
No.
All right, I want to go back to that July 1st 37-second call that was routed to voicemail. Was it your understanding that that call came after an incident where Garcia angrily confronted McVanois and Charlie Adelson on July 1st of 2014?
Yes.
Okay, and then Garcia left an angry voicemail on Harvey Adelson's phone.
Correct.
Were there text messages in Charlie Adelson's iCloud that referenced that event?
There were.
Okay, and do you have those for us here?
I do. So this is slide 35 now, cumulatively, and we see the communication between Mr. Charlie Adelson and Ms. McVanois.
Okay, so if this is July 2nd, beginning at, is that 9:12 a.m.?
Yes.
So this would be the morning after that voicemail is left on Harvey Adelson's phone
That's correct.
by Garcia.
That's correct.
Can you walk us through these messages?
Certainly. So Charlie Adelson states that this really sucks, and Ms. McVanois responds in a couple of messages that she doesn't like the fact that someone thinks they can make decisions in her life, and then apologize, and that the leaving messages was retarded and childish.
Okay. And does she say to Charlie Adelson on July 2nd, "I'm sorry, but he's a effing pussy. All that leaving messages is, as you said, and so childish"?
Yes.
Okay. But whatever.
But whatever.
Okay. All right. Can we go back to our chart? I want to ask you a little bit about the communication and emails between these parties. Did law enforcement look at the communication and emails between these parties to see if anyone seemed to have a motive to kill Dan Markel?
They did, yes.
Okay. I want to go through just a couple of these. I think we may have 5 or 6 in here, and I want to start chronologically, if we could, from the beginning of 2013, moving up to the murder, as far as the written communication moving up to the murder, and then I'll ask you more about the locations of the parties for the trips to Tallahassee after that.
Okay.
Okay, so if I could first turn your attention to March 6th of 2013. Is this an email from Donna Adelson, and then the email associated with her is donnaharvey@gmail.com?
That's correct.
Okay. And when we're looking at some of these emails, does sometimes the name that it appears that the email is from, is sometimes that name different, even though it's from the same email address, donnaharvey@gmail.com?
Yes.
How does that happen?
It can happen in a few different ways. That display name is what we call it, is a kind of a separate piece of information that is attached to your email address. And in this case, the email is Gmail. It provides the email service. And you can go into your Gmail account and change your display name or change the name that you want to come up when you send email to someone else. Also, if you're using different email clients and you're checking your Gmail, maybe through your iPhone native mail application, you can also set a different name in there. So either changing it within Gmail or changing it within the email client that you're using, especially if you're using multiple different devices, it's possible to have different display names for that same email address.
Throughout the emails that we see in the records from donnaharvey@gmail.com, is the display name sometimes Donna Adelson, as we see here?
It is, yes.
Is it sometimes Donna Sue?
Yes.
Is it sometimes Donna and Harvey?
Yes.
And is it sometimes Harvey Adelson?
Yes.
Okay, so is this an email from Donna Adelson to Wendy?
Yes.
Okay, and is also a way of determining who sent the email and who signed off on the email at the end?
Yes, certainly the signature or content of the email itself.
Okay. Looking at this specific email, in this email, does Donna Adelson call Dan Markel a name?
She does, yes.
And what does she call him?
So I'll display that. What you see here on the screen is the actual email in the form that it was out of the return. And then when we emphasize certain areas, I have enlarged those and made the font bigger. I did not change things like boldness or italics or punctuation, just made it larger and changed the color to red to emphasize the sections that we're speaking of. So to your question, she says this guy is a major fucker. I hope that your attorney is the shark that is her reputation.
And then in this email, looking down 2 paragraphs below, does it say Gary told Dad yesterday?
It does, yes.
So in this communication, Dad is referred to in the third person.
Correct.
Okay. And just as you were saying before, can that give context about who sent the email so that it seems like Mom is sending the email as opposed to Dad from that shared email account?
Correct.
All right. And is this email signed off on?
It is not.
Okay. Looking 2 months ahead to May 21st of 2013, is this an email from Donna Adelson to Wendy Adelson?
Yes.
Okay, and in this email, does she say, wow, exclamation point?
Yes.
And says, he is such a royal jackass. How smart are you to get rid of this piece of S word, and then types out a scream?
Yes.
All right, and is this email signed off on?
It is, with I love you, Mom.
Were there also emails that showed Donna Adelson's strong interest in Wendy and her sons being able to relocate to Miami?
Yes.
Looking at another May 2013 email next, is this an email from Donna Adelson up top to Wendy?
Yes.
And in this email, what did Donna Adelson tell Wendy Adelson is the most important part of her divorce?
So this is slide 42 that we're on now, and we see that the most important part of your divorce is relocation. I sincerely hope your attorney understands that that is your non-negotiable.
In the next slide, does Donna Adelson give Wendy Adelson some ideas of what she should tell the judge about how this is negatively affecting the lives of Donna, Harvey, and Charlie?
Yes, she does.
And this is the mother and father's practice she's...
Request to relocate with the children to South Florida, yes, was denied.
All right, and what does Donna Adelson say to Wendy Adelson in this email? So this one's from Donna Sue up top?
Correct.
Okay, and what does she say about their recent loss in court?
She encourages Wendy to never give up, and that it is time for action, time to take control of your life and not let Jurors, which is a nickname for Mr. Markel, think that he's just won anything by having you remain in Tallahassee.
And I think we've seen some of these, so let's go just quickly through the rest and go through the next one. In the next, does she appear to give Wendy Adelson a bit of a pep talk about what she should do next?
Yes.
Okay, does she say that the rest of their family's lives next will be determined by her performance in the next couple of weeks?
Yes.
and how he hasn't beaten the Adelson family yet. I'm sorry, she needs to put on the performance of her life. He hasn't beaten the Adelson family yet,
That's correct.
and she has a strong family behind her.
Yes.
Is next in this email where we see the plan of action outlined.
That's correct.
And if you could skip through, is this the plan of action about posing the kids in front of the Catholic Church and getting them baptized?
That's correct.
And assuring her that this is just an act, but don't tell anybody.
Yes.
And that she should take control of him psychologically.
Correct.
After this portion where she wants her to psychologically manipulate Dan Markel into converting the children to another religion, what does she say she plans to do next?
There is a plan of a financial offer to Mr. Markel.
Does she say, I am planning or we are planning?
It states we plan to make.
Does she go on to describe who this we is in the team?
She does, yes.
Okay, can we see that? And does she then detail how she, Harvey, and Charlie's lives have been affected by Wendy not being able to relocate?
Correct.
She says, it's time for you to show us you can put the performance of your life on for the next few weeks. What was a few weeks later?
The final divorce hearing.
Was that on July 31st and August 1st?
Yes.
Now, a day or two after this, does Donna Adelson then write another email about the relocation?
Yes.
In this email, if you can, okay, so this one's from Donna and Harvey, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. And if you can skip through to where she's discussing the extreme lengths. In this email, does she describe situations where people have to go to extreme lengths to accomplish their goals, like American soldiers in Nazi uniforms?
Yes.
And does she next suggest that a major act of defiance would be putting the boys in SS uniforms?
Yes.
Or Hitler Youth uniforms. Next in this email, does she tell Wendy Adelson to stand up? It's all part of an act, and we are willing to help you.
She does, yes.
And this is where she says that it'll put a scare into this jackass.
Yes.
Next, does Donna Adelson say in all capitals that Wendy needs to see the big picture?
She does, yes.
Okay, so you didn't add those were just in there.
That's correct.
And that her life in Tallahassee is not a pretty picture?
Correct.
And then finally in this email, does she give details of the financial offer again, the $1 million email?
Yes.
And does she say that, again, that we are planning, me, her, Charlie, and Harvey, and they want her to help too, Wendy Adelson?
That's correct.
And finally, does she say that they are a team and they cannot do this without her help?
She does.
All right, and then how is this email signed off?
Written with hope and love, Mom and Dad.
All right. Okay, this is the final email I'm going to show you today, or at all in your presentation. October 12th of 2013. So we've fast forwarded a couple of months now. Looking at this email, what can you tell us about the email chain here as far as who sent the first email, who sent the second email, and who sent the final email?
So what we see here, again, emphasizing kind of on the content about what's being sent, but if we look at the email chain, we can see originally this is an email from Mr. Markel to Wendy Adelson, where Wendy Adelson has forwarded it to the Donna Harvey Gmail account, and then the Donna Sue has forwarded it to Charlie Adelson.
So in Dan Markel's email sent October 10th, the subject is general principles.
That's correct.
And in that email, does he reference that he wants a right of first refusal, an RFR?
That's correct.
What does that mean in this situation, according to him?
In this situation, if what he wanted was that if Wendy was unavailable to take care of the children, that he be given the first right of refusal before Wendy solicited her parents or anyone else to watch the children.
Okay, and then Wendy forwarded that on to the Donna Harvey at Gmail?
That's correct.
And then did Donna Sue then forward that email on to Charlie Adelson?
Yes.
And what did Donna Sue say to Charlie Adelson about the contents of everything that she'd forwarded to him?
That Mr. Markel was absolutely crazy and impossible, emphasized.
So this effer is sending this to your sister on a regular basis. He is absolutely crazy. She defines RFR, and she says impossible in all caps and exclamation points.
Yes.
All right, so the date of this email, is this October 12th of 2013?
Yes.
So she's sending this to Charlie Adelson, this information about how impossible Dan Markel's being and what he's doing to Charlie Adelson's sister, about 2 weeks before Halloween of 2013?
Yes, a little 2.5 weeks.
Okay. Was there also phone communication that showed Donna Adelson's venting to Charlie Adelson about Wendy Adelson's custody battle?
Yes.
Now, around the same date as this last email we saw, October of 2013, in this text message does Donna Adelson say, "Horrible evening for your sister and for us. Dad finally had to walk outside to lower his blood pressure. Just awful. I can't even explain."
That's correct.
Who is she sending that to?
To Charlie Adelson.
And what does he say?
So this is slide 66. As we continue into slide 67 with the rest, she indicates, Donna Adelson indicates that she's on the way back to Wendy's house with only one of the children, and Charlie responds, "I bet, let's talk this week."
Okay, so she doesn't go into any more detail here, but she's describing how stressed Wendy is, and that's causing Dad a lot of stress, and it's just awful for her too.
That's correct.
And this would have been at that same time, or around the same time as the last email, about 2 weeks before Halloween.
Correct.
All right, so let's go to October 30th of 2013, so the day before Halloween of 2013. Here is does Donna Adelson say that she just got a text from Wendy casually mentioning that she's moving ahead with the purchase of a house that she liked. I guess she wants to do it before a certain date when she goes to England. And what does Charlie Adelson say?
That she had never told me. She never told me, meaning Wendy had not told her.
How does the conversation go after that? Is Charlie for this or against this?
Against it. He's asking Donna Adelson why Wendy would do it, and ask, of course, if Mr. Markel has given permission, all of those things.
Okay, and what's next? Is he afraid that Dan Markel will hold this against Wendy Adelson? Like, basically, like, well, now you've purchased a home here.
He would, yes.
And use it as leverage.
Correct.
And he says he'll try her again, but basically Wendy never gets back to him, basically.
Correct.
All right, what's next?
So we see, again, this is October 30th. We're on slide 72 now, that Charlie Adelson sends a message to Wendy stating that he would call her in 10 minutes.
Okay, what's next?
He, again, later responds that he must talk to her, to please call him, and she responds that she's in court. She can call after 4.
Going through the text, does it seem like eventually they talk?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so they're still setting up the time to talk. Everything's okay. What's next? Does he then report back to Donna Adelson?
Yes. So we're on slide 75 here, October 31st. Charlie is speaking to Donna, texting with Donna, stating that he had spoke to Wendy and thinks that he had made some headway, and hopes they're having a good time on vacation in Israel.
Okay, so the phone call between Wendy and Charlie would have happened before this message to Mom, or to Donna Adelson.
That's correct.
Okay, so then does Charlie check back in with Wendy?
He does, yes.
Okay, and tell us about that conversation.
He asks how she's feeling and gives her some general advice and tells her that he loves her.
And does that advice involve renting things as opposed to buying them?
That's correct.
Okay, and says, "I love you."
He does.
Does Donna then check back in with Charlie?
Yes. So this is slide 78, again, still October 31st, and Donna Adelson is communicating with Charlie Adelson.
And what does Charlie say next? Spoke to Wendy for 20 minutes last night. She texted me today that she pulled the plug on the house. Smiley face with a lot of smiles.
Yes.
And that's at Halloween on 5:19 p.m.?
Yes.
All right, and how does Donna Adelson respond to this news?
She says, "Wow, Charlie, thank you again. How did you accomplish that? You are a miracle worker. Tell us."
Okay. So she's saying, "Thank you again." and calls him a miracle worker.
Yes.
And then does Charlie lay out the reasons or how he was able to get Wendy to do this?
He does.
Which was kind of the same things he was pointing out to his mom earlier.
That's correct.
And says Dan would hold it against her, and it would be the second dumbest mistake of her life.
Correct.
Without specifically saying what the first is, I guess.
Correct.
What's next? He's telling her how long it took to talk to Wendy about it.
Yes, and we're on slide 82. Again, this is November 1st of 2013, and he continues the conversation.
All right. What happened next? What's our next text message? Do we have one from February of 2014?
Yes.
Okay. Here does Donna say that Wendy is totally stressed out. Yesterday was a rough one. She'll probably have to go through another depot. Outrageous. Her attorney is abusing the system. Her attorney will claim he is abusing the system by filing all these motions. And a $500,000 bank account is the same $50K tried to get his hands on, and Charlie responds, crazy.
Yes.
Okay. What's next after Donna is venting to him about this? Does she say it's a total waste of the court's time?
Yes. I apologize, I went fast there. But yes, that it's a total waste of the court's time. This is slide 85. We're on February 15th. That yesterday he sent Wendy a text that he saw her leaving the school in our car at 2:07 p.m. He is stalking her.
And then does Donna talk about wanting to get a protective order? But
Yes.
that's very hard to do if there's no threats or abuse.
Correct.
But a judge should know that she's being stalked.
Correct.
And Charlie says, I agree.
Yes.
Okay. Do they continue talking about the divorce here?
Yes.
Okay. What's next? And they're continuing to complain about the system, the judge that's assigned to the case, and Charlie says that complaining about the amount that Wendy's attorney is costing,
Correct.
and Donna's agrees.
Yes.
Okay, what's next? He wonders if she's mad at her attorney. How does Donna respond? Donna says she's too stressed. Let's keep her conversations with her light. Let's not add to what she's dealing with. Let's just get through Monday. Nothing stressful.
Correct.
Is there another text message on February 17th?
Yes. This is slide 92.
And on this, is Donna saying that she just left the courthouse?
Yes.
Okay. And how does Donna respond to how did it go?
She says, okay, we'll talk later.
Okay. And she gives some more detail about what happened in court.
Yes. Slide 95, still on February 17th, that the judge was really pissed at him for not paying Wendy, and continues.
Okay. And it looks like Wendy's still going to have to be deposed, but with strict limitations to questions.
Correct.
And she wants Danny to get psychological testing.
Correct.
All right, what's after that? They're talking about Danny getting a large bill.
Yes.
Okay, what's next?
So February 19th?
Is this more talk about the divorce proceedings?
Yes.
I won't make you read this whole email. I'm getting tired too. But basically in this email is Donna complaining about Dan Markel coming to the soccer game of the boys and wanting to play with them.
Yes.
And she calls him an F word here.
Yes. A couple of things.
And basically saying he's allowed to attend the children's activity when it's Wendy time, but that's it. He can't be spending more time with them than just attending.
Correct.
Okay, what's next?
This is now March 4th of 2014. We're on
Okay.
slide 98.
Okay, thank you. So on this day, so on March 4th of 2014, was there a text message in the records where Donna Adelson asked Charlie Adelson to erase a text that she sent to him?
There is, yes.
Okay, can you walk us through that exchange?
So again, this is March 4th. She is communicating with Charlie. She indicates 37 miles to Gainesville.
As in coming from Tallahassee going to Gainesville.
That would be correct, yes.
Okay. And what does she say here?
She says, I can't talk now, but I'll text you before we stop in Gainesville where I can go to the bathroom and have a moment of privacy. Then I'll call. Please pick up because I will have limited alone time today. Erase this text after you read it.
What does she send a few minutes later?
She says, we'll stop in about 5 minutes and I can speak to you privately about Dad's birthday gift when I'm out of the car. I have some good ideas.
What was the time difference between those two texts?
This text was at 10:42 a.m. and this is at 11:08 a.m.
Okay. So 20 minutes before, she's texting saying, we'll have a private conversation and erase this after you read it. Then she sends a text 20 minutes later saying, I can speak to you privately, and says what it's about, Dad's birthday gift.
Correct.
Does she tell him to delete that text where she said the subject of the private conversation?
There's no request to delete that text.
And how does Charlie respond?
He says great.
And then is there some communication after that where they're setting up this phone call?
Yes.
Okay, can you show us that? She's saying don't call yet.
Correct.
Okay. She needs 5 more minutes until she can get to the bathroom for the
Yes.
private call. Okay, what's
This is 11:10 a.m.
All right, moving on to May 30th. In this text is Donna telling Charlie that she had a tough conversation with Wendy.
Yes.
All right. And this text message then is on the second to last day of May of 2014?
Correct.
All right. And through Luis Rivera, was it learned that there was not only a July trip to Tallahassee, but also a trip in June, at the beginning of June, where these killers came to Tallahassee?
That's correct.
All right. Judge, this might be a good stopping point for now.
Very well.
Thank you. All right, so before we go back to your PowerPoint demonstrative, I want to show you one thing. And before I show it to you, Judge, I'd like to offer 664 JJ into evidence by stipulation.
That's correct, Your Honor.
64 JJ is admitted at this time.
All right, Sergeant Corbett, does this appear to be an email from Donna Harvey at gmail.com?
Yes.
Okay, subject, bad news.
Correct.
And it was sent on June 25th of 2013 at about 11 p.m.
That would be GMT or UTC time, so we would need to subtract 4 hours from that to be local time, but yes.
Okay, thank you. So sometime the night of June 25th of 2013.
Correct.
And that was the same day as I believe the plan of action email that we saw yesterday from your PowerPoint, which was sent just a couple of days after Wendy's relocation was denied.
That's correct.
Okay. And so in this email sent about 5 days after Wendy's relocation was denied, from Donna and Harvey to some friends, does it say, not in the mood to talk right now, and hope you'll understand. Wendy's hearing for relocation was denied. No chance at the appellate level for an appeal. We are all very disappointed. We'll talk soon, I promise. Love, Donna.
Yes.
Does it appear her understanding is it's denied and there's no chance for an appeal?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, so where we left off yesterday, we went through some of the emails showing Donna Adelson's involvement in the divorce, text messages showing her venting to Charlie Adelson about the divorce. Are you familiar with Luis Rivera's statements to law enforcement in 2016 after his arrest, that he and Garcia traveled to Tallahassee not only in the month of July of 2014 to kill Dan Markel, but also made an additional trip in the month of June of 2014?
Yes.
And were you able to corroborate that from the phone records?
Yes, we were.
Okay, so now I want to go in chronological order then, from the start of the June trip all the way through the July trip when Dan Markel was murdered. How did Garcia and Rivera get to Tallahassee for the June trip?
In a rental vehicle.
And were we able to find the rental contract for that vehicle?
We were, yes.
All right, can you show that to us?
Yes, so this is slide 107. I'm referencing here a rental contract from Comfort Rental Car in Miami. And again, yes, this would be the vehicle that was rented to come to Tallahassee for the June trip.
What date was the car rented?
So looking at the details here, we can see the date out, and I'm looking to the right side of the screen here is June 2nd of 14. And we see at the bottom here the vehicle is due back in 6/5 or June 5th of 14.
Okay, so it was a 3-day rental then.
Correct.
About what time on June 2nd was it rented?
Well, presuming the 24-hour rental periods, as it is due back at 8:50 p.m., then it would have been rented around 8:50 p.m. on the 2nd.
8:50 p.m. on the 2nd?
Yes.
Okay. What type of car did Garcia rent for this first trip to Tallahassee in June?
Again, looking to the right here of slide 107, it is a silver Nissan Altima.
And the contract was signed by Garcia?
That is correct.
Does Luis Rivera's name appear anywhere on that contract?
It does not.
Are there any phone records to show how this rental car was picked up?
Yes.
Did you get location information from Magbanwa's records that night that helped shed some light on that?
We did, and this may be the time to point out, for Mr. Garcia, his carrier was Metro PCS, kind of transitioning into T-Mobile at that time, and we were unable to obtain location records for his handset for the June trip. We do have location information for Ms. Magbanwa and for Luis Rivera, but we do not have any records with location for Mr. Garcia for this particular time frame.
Okay. So what do we see here?
So what we see here is just a map depicting Ms. Magbanwa's residence at the time and the location of the Comfort rental car near the airport here. And as I progress to slide 109, this is representing the cell sites that Ms. Magbanwa's handset communicated with the evening of June 2nd. And we can see on the right-hand side of this, around 8:25 p.m., her handset was communicating with a cell site that would be near her residence. At 8:34, she's now communicating with a cell site further to the west. And then we see at 8:53 through 8:58, she's communicating with a cell site that would be servicing the area of the airport or Comfort rental car. And this would be consistent with her handset traveling from her residence to the area of Comfort rental car.
And would that put her cell phone then consistent with Comfort rental car around the same time that Garcia is renting that car if there's 24-hour rental periods with that contract?
Yes, and we see here slide 110, again, we're depicting the particular sector that her handset was using by the large red arrow. And we can see that that sector would specifically be consistent with servicing the Comfort rental car. We see she has events from 8:53 through 8:58 on that particular cell site and sector. And as we recall, the rental contract, vehicle was due back at 8:50.
Does she stay in that area for a while, or does she kind of immediately return back to her residence?
So what we see next, we saw those events through 8:58, and then we have an event at 9:17, and then another event we see to the right. This is slide 111. To the right side, we see cell sites at 9:43 and 10:01, which will be consistent with her returning to her residence. So she does stay in the area of Comfort for a short period of time.
Okay. Did you look at her records to see who she was talking to during this trip to the car rental and back?
Yes.
Okay. Who was she talking? Okay, sorry. What do we see here?
So this is a summary of the call detail records. Previously, we saw the actual raw records as they come from AT&T. We saw that there was a lot of information on the page. So with our analytical software, we're able to produce these summaries, which allow us to assign names. We can convert the date and time to our local time, and it just makes it easier to read those call detail records. So this is just a summary of the calls for the subjects that you see here for the evening of June 2nd around the time of this rental car.
So who was she talking to on the way to Comfort Rental?
Geico, the 800 number that returns to Geico Insurance.
And is that the first line up on the call detail records we see?
It is, yes.
And does Geico Insurance sell car insurance?
They do.
Now, obviously we see some of the co-conspirators talking to each other here on the call detail records. Do we expect most of these co-conspirators to be talking to each other on a daily basis, given that some of them are family members, some of them are dating, they have relationships outside of this crime.
Certainly.
Okay. Are you going to be walking us through in your presentation today certain time periods of communication between the parties that stood out in this investigation?
Yes.
What causes a particular period of time to stand out?
The particular times of interest would be those that overlap with physical events or specific events in the crime, in the conspiracy of the crime. So this is the evening of the renting of the vehicle that Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera are going to drive to Tallahassee in to commit the homicide. So this seems, in the scheme of things, to my understanding, the first kind of physical doing act of this homicide. And so that would be a relevant time frame to look at.
Okay. All right, so using a timeline, can you walk us through the communication between the parties for this particular significant time, this first car rental for the first trip to Tallahassee for the murder of Dan Markel?
Yes. And so using the timeline, we will kind of look at what's happening as far as Ms. Magbanow's travels compared to who she's communicating with when. And this is taken from that same exact summary that we just saw. But as I move on here, we see that in the time frame, we saw the cell sites of her traveling to the area of Comfort Rental Car between approximately 8:25 and 8:53 p.m. is when we see that she has the phone call to Geico.
Okay, was she talking to Garcia at all during that drive to the Comfort Rental area?
She does not have any communications with Mr. Garcia during this time frame.
Since they don't have communications with each other, could that be consistent with her giving him a ride to the car rental since he is the person who rented the car at that time?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Overruled, the witness may testify based on his analysis of these records.
It is certainly consistent when we don't see communications between two parties that they could in fact be together and have no need to actually call one another.
Okay. They could just not be together and also not talking to each other.
That's correct.
All right. But the reason that this could be consistent with her giving him a ride there is because once she's consistent with that area, it seems that that's the time that the car is being rented.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, who attempts to call Catherine Magbanwa once she is consistent with Comfort Rental, dropping off Garcia?
So again, at the time frame, her handset will be consistent with the area of Comfort Rental. We see an incoming call from Charlie Adelson at 8:57 p.m.
After Magbanwa, if she has dropped off Garcia at this point to rent the car, and this car ends up obviously being the one that is driven to Tallahassee to kill Dan Markel, who did she call on the phone at this point after Garcia is dropped off?
So again, from her cell sites, we saw she had an event at 9:17, which was kind of the first indication that she was moving away from the area of Comfort Rental Car. And what we see is that at 9:17:58, she places an outbound call to Charlie Adelson.
So as soon as she's no longer in the area of Comfort Rental, she's calling Charlie Adelson.
Correct.
How long is that conversation?
A little over 25 minutes.
What time do they get off the phone?
Approximately 9:43 p.m.
Okay, 9:43 in about 25 seconds, it looks like.
Correct.
Right after Charlie Adelson hangs up with Catherine Magbanwa at 9:43 and 25 seconds, who does he call less than a minute later?
Charlie calls the Adelson residence.
Adelson residence. What do you mean by that?
The home phone or landline phone for Donna and Harvey Adelson.
Okay, so this is a landline that presumably they would both use that's located in their house.
Correct.
Okay, and how long does that conversation between Charlie and the Adelson residence last?
Also just over 25 minutes.
Who does Catherine Magbanwa call once she is back in the area of her home?
What we see in just after 10, she calls, text. There's a few communications back and forth here with Sigfredo.
Okay, do Harvey Adelson and Charlie Adelson then talk on their cell phones that night?
Yes, there are two calls. and we can see 10:16 that Harvey Adelson calls Charlie Adelson. At 10:27, Charlie Adelson calls Harvey Adelson.
So this is Charlie and Harvey talking on Harvey's cell phone, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, does Charlie Adelson call or receive calls or messages from Donna Adelson's cell phone that night?
Not that night, no.
So if Charlie Adelson talked to Donna Adelson on the phone that night, then it would have been that 25-minute call to the landline right after he hung up with Catherine McBanois, is that right?
That
Calls for speculation.
Overruled, he is not definitively saying what did or did not occur, what might have been possible. You may continue.
So yes, it is possible that he spoke to Donna, and that would have been on that landline call.
Because then he talks to Harvey on Harvey's cell phone later that night.
That's correct.
Can you walk us through any other calls or texts between any co-conspirators that night?
So we see an additional text between Catherine and Sigfredo, and then Catherine calls Charlie again 10:41 p.m. For about a 23-minute phone call.
Are you familiar with, I want to go back to this landline call. Do you mind going back to the slide right before this? Are you familiar with statements by Charlie Adelson from the 2016 wiretap in this case that we'll hear beginning later today, where Charlie Adelson tells people on his cell phone that he'll call them back on a landline?
Yes.
As someone who's familiar with technical operations of law enforcement and wiretapping, is there a perception that talking on a landline is safer than talking on a cell phone?
Yes, I think that may be a perception.
Okay. Does Charlie Adelson most often talk to Donna Adelson and Harvey Adelson on their cell phones or on the landline?
Most frequently on their cell phones.
Okay. But we see that after he gets off with Catherine McBanois that night, he does call the landline.
That's correct.
Okay, and this is right after the car is rented, the rental car.
Correct.
All right. What percentage of total communication does that Charlie Adelson has with Donna and Harvey is to their landline?
I'll have to move forward here just a little bit. We had talked about the call from Catherine to Charlie. There's a final call or some communication between Ms. McBanois and Mr. Sigfredo, Mr. Garcia later that evening of the 2nd. And then to get to your question, and this is slide 122, just a breakdown looking at Charlie Adelson's communication records and trying to eliminate all the duplicate events that we saw previously where one phone call may make 3 events in the record. So trying to whittle all those down. What we see in this time period between May of 2014 through August of 2015 is 28 communications with the landline and 1,378 with the combined cell phones of Harvey and Donna Adelson. So a little under 2% of the calls to the residents.
So during that little over a year time span, he only has 28 calls ever with Donna and Harvey's landline. Is that right?
That's correct.
And one of those is that 25-minute call right after McBanois would have dropped Garcia off to have the car rented.
That's correct.
Are you familiar with Rivera's statement that he did not participate in the car rental for the June trip to Tallahassee?
Yes.
Were you able to corroborate that with the phone records?
Yes, so looking at slide 123, we see Mr. Rivera. His cell sites are in the blue, listed by the blue dots here. We see that his cell sites are consistent with the area of his residence and a significant distance away from the comfort rental car.
Do we have any other evidence that shows who rented the car for this June trip to Tallahassee on June 2nd?
Yes.
What's this?
So there was a citation issued to Mr. Garcia driving that rental vehicle, that Nissan that we saw from the rental contract at Comfort. And this is the evening of June 2nd.
Okay, and what time did he receive this traffic ticket?
9:48 p.m.
So would this have been approximately an hour after 8:50 p.m. and about an hour after, or about maybe 45 minutes, I guess, after Catherine McBanois is leaving the comfort rental area.
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of car was he in when he received his traffic ticket?
It is a four-door silver Nissan.
Okay, so it seems as if as soon as he rented that vehicle, within an hour, he's getting a traffic ticket in the vehicle.
Yes.
And are you familiar with Jeffrey Lacosse's statement that he drove a silver Nissan sedan at the time that this happened?
Yes.
Now, this traffic ticket that Garcia received, this would have received, or it would have created a record in law enforcement databases that he was in possession of this Nissan silver sedan, right?
Correct.
So after he got this traffic ticket, what did he do?
Well, what we saw was an additional comfort rental contract where it would appear that he returned the Nissan and obtained a different vehicle. So this is slide 125, and we can see that on June 3rd, he now has a blue Hyundai Sonata.
And does Rivera's name appear anywhere on that rental contract?
It does not.
All right, and that's on June 3rd, you said?
Correct.
So what can you tell us about the travel of Mr. Rivera's handset on June 4th of 2014?
So what we see, again, just looking at Mr. Rivera's cell sites, represented in blue here, we can see that in the early morning hours of the 4th, on the lower right hand of slide 127 here, we can see he has activity in the Miami area. And as time progresses through the early morning hours until just after noon, he continues to communicate with cell sites that would be consistent with travel from the Miami area to Tallahassee.
And are you familiar with Rivera's statement that he and Garcia did surveillance of Dan Markel at a park near Dan Markel's home during that trip?
Yes.
Was his phone ever consistent with being in a park near his home, Dan Markel's home on Truscott Drive?
Yes, and slide 129 here, we see that, again, the blue dot representing Mr. Rivera's cell site usage is close to Mr. Markel's residence, which is indicated here on the top right by the flag and the address of Truscott Drive. And in addition to his cell site location, we talked previously about having some GPS information from the rental vehicle, and we can see by the square icon there that there is a GPS location for the rental vehicle, again, in close proximity and actually at, I believe that's Winthrop Park there.
And if they're located right there where that blue square is on the map, and the killers are familiar with the type of car that Dan Markel drives, would they be able to see then his ingress and egress from Truscott Drive onto Benton Road?
They should be able to see him passing on Benton Road, yes.
And after this GPS ping near Markel's home, where does Rivera travel at that point?
What we see in the next slide, 130 here, is that immediately after that, we see the cell site usage starting at the top around 3:25 p.m. and continuing through until the late evening hours of the 5th would be consistent with traveling back to the Miami area.
Does he get back in looks like the early morning hours of June 6th?
That's correct.
Close 12:47 a.m.?
Correct.
Now, did you look at the communication between all the co-conspirators during this trip to Tallahassee to see if there was any opportunity for information to be relayed?
Yes. So what we see, again, from the time of the rental car on the 2nd through the 4th, again, to answer the question, is there an opportunity for communications to occur between these subjects? This, again, is another summary of the call detail records, just showing the communications between, again, the primary subjects of the investigation.
Okay, and how much were they talking?
So in that time frame, if we go back to kind of our organization here and split out, we can see just numbers of communications or attempted communications. These may be text messages, calls, but just records of communications or attempts. We see that there are a number between Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson, between Charlie Adelson and Catherine McBanois, and between McBanois and Garcia. And then as that continues, so for the total number of communications, we can see those between each of the subjects.
Okay, and is Catherine McBanois the only one who is talking to Garcia or Rivera during that trip on this chart?
That's correct.
And is Charlie Adelson the only Adelson family member who talks to Catherine McBanois?
That's correct.
And do Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson also have communication or attempted communication?
I'm sorry?
Do Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson also have communication or attempted communication?
Yes.
Okay. Now, going next to June 7th, which would be the day after the killers arrived back in Miami without having killed Dan Markel on this trip. Earlier in the presentation, yesterday, right before we broke in the afternoon, we saw we're back in March of 2014. Donna Adelson tells Charlie Adelson she has to talk to him about something private while she's on the road on the way to Gainesville, and says to erase this text. Do you remember that?
I do, yes.
Okay. And then a few minutes after she sends that message, she says the subject of the private call is going to be about Dad's birthday.
Correct.
Dad's birthday gift, actually. Is that right?
Yes.
And she does not tell him to erase that text where she's saying the subject of the private call.
That was correct.
Now, in June, specifically on June 7th, did Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson exchange texts about this birthday present for Harvey Adelson again?
Yes. So slide 137, we see two chats between Charlie Adelson and Donna Adelson, where Charlie indicates he's, okay, have fun, still working on Dad's B-Day present. And Donna Adelson responds, I know it's a tough B-Day being 70 and all, but I know you'll come through.
Okay, and this still working on Dad's B-Day present would be the day after the killers arrived back in Miami without having killed Dan Markel.
Correct.
Okay, and this birthday present was mentioned back in March. About, would that be about 4 months before Harvey Adelson's birthday?
Yes.
All right, going forward to July 3rd, was there an evite to Harvey Adelson's birthday sent to Wendy Adelson that day?
Yes, a reminder email that was sent on July 3rd.
Okay, and when is the party?
So as we see, kind of focusing in here on the details of this email, the party, a friendly reminder that Donna's event is coming up on Saturday, July 5th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m.
Was it addressed to Wendy, and we blurred out their names, but her two sons, and listed Wendy and her two sons' last name as Adelson?
Yes.
Was Dan Markel still alive on July 5th of 2014?
He was.
And what last name, or an Adelson, though, is listed as the boy's last name here when this is sent?
And I'm sorry.
Sorry, Adelson is listed as the boy's last name, though, regardless of the fact that Dan Markel is still alive on this date?
That's correct.
And this was about 2 weeks before Dan Markel was killed?
Yes.
Now, Donna is listed as the host here, but was there further evidence in the records that Donna Adelson was not only the host, but was also the person who sent these evites?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about that?
There was at least one other email from the Donna Harvey at Gmail account to Evite inquiring about whether the evites had been sent. The title of the email, I believe, is Have My 14 Invitations Been Sent? She's following up. It is signed by Donna Adelson, following up on whether those evites have actually gone out, and it indicates that basically she's unfamiliar with the process, but she had listed the attendees under the contact section on their form.
So she's the one that's listing the invitees for the contacts for Evite.
Per that email, yes.
And checking to make sure the invitations did get sent through the Evite service.
Correct.
And does she also send a message to another person saying, did you get the Evite? Did you get my Evite?
Yes.
All right. I want to move on to then a couple of days later, July 6th. So would this be the day after the party?
Yes.
Okay, what message was found in the cell brite of Wendy Adelson's cell phone on July 6th?
So this is slide 142. There is a text message from Wendy Adelson to Dan Markel asking if he is in Tallahassee for the dates of July 14th through the 18th.
And she says she wants to know because she wants to know if she can have the kids on the 16th.
Correct.
And he replies, yes, you can.
Correct.
So chronologically, this would have occurred after the trip to Tallahassee in June by the killers, but before the July trip to Tallahassee when Dan Markel was actually murdered.
Correct.
Now, the dates that Wendy Adelson is asking Dan Markel about, what is significant about those dates? What happened on July 15th?
Those dates encompass the rental car and the trip to Tallahassee and ultimately Mr. Markel's death.
Okay. So July 15th was the day that the killers rented the car to come to Tallahassee.
Correct.
And then they were in Tallahassee from the 16th through the 18th,
Correct.
with Dan Markel being killed on the 18th.
Correct.
And where was Wendy Adelson when she sent this message?
So
Oh, thank you. Let me ask you about this. Was there already a schedule in place as to who would have the kids during those dates that Wendy Adelson asked Dan Markel about?
yes, there was. So this is an email from Wendy Adelson's Gmail account referencing the schedule for the children for this particular time. And we can see in the email that Mr. Markel is listed to have the children the 11th through the 17th.
And the date she was asking about is the 16th?
Correct.
And in the top of that email, does it say that she gets the kids every Wednesday anyway?
That she has the children every Wednesday anyway?
Yeah, the last sentence. I imagine you'll have the chance to have them on Wednesday nights during the weeks in May, June, and July?
Yes, that she would imagine to have the chance.
Okay. So what she was asking about seems to already be established in this schedule that was already established in January, 7 months earlier.
Correct.
All right, so where was Wendy Adelson when she sent the message to find out whether Dan Markel would be in town that week?
So that message was sent the morning of the 6th, and the closest cell site or event we have with location, she's communicating with a cell site in South Miami Beach, that would be consistent with the continuum.
And the continuum was the residence of Harvey and Donna Adelson at the time?
That's correct.
And this would be the day after the birthday party?
Yes.
All right, what did Wendy Adelson do after sending that message?
So this is slide 146. There is a calendar entry which created an event for July 7th of 2014, which indicates cancel cable and get Apple ID and Netflix instead.
Okay, obviously this is something a lot of people do, right? Cancel cable and end up getting streaming services?
Yes.
All right, but you can stream from anywhere, right? Is that one of the perks of having streaming over cable?
It would be one of the perks, yes.
Cable is typically, especially back in 2014, was maybe confined to a more fixed spot like a home.
Correct.
And this was on July 7th then. So was Wendy Adelson still living at the Aqua Ridge Drive in Tallahassee at that time?
Yes.
But by the following month, she had relocated to Miami and was no longer in that home.
That's correct.
All right, moving on to July 11th. What do we see on July 11th?
So on July 11th, again, I'm on slide 148. This is an email from Donna Sue, the Donna Harvey Gmail, to Wendy Adelson regarding a Best Buy service or service for the television.
And what does it say?
It says, if you can't keep Friday, July 18th between 8 a.m. and noon, call to reschedule. It states we took this, the contract we took out is repair in-house if possible. If not possible, they will take it no charge.
And here, Dad is being referred to in the third person. Contract is under Harvey Adelson with Dad's cell phone number.
Yes,
Okay, and it's from Donna Sue at the top.
correct.
If they need the purchaser, that's my name with my cell phone number, it says. Is that right?
Correct.
And what does Donna Sue say the contract is? Repair in-house if possible. If not possible, they'll take out at no charge. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. Did you find any more information about, besides this email from Donna, about this TV repair that was supposed to take place on the morning of July 18th?
Regarding,
The Best Buy repair?
I mean, we know that it occurred, that technicians come to her house that morning.
Okay. And was there also emails between or messages about the phone, the TV being in Harvey Adelson's, as it says here? I guess just consistent with this, some Best Buy documents that were consistent with this about the contract being under Harvey Adelson's name that Donna's then communicating to Wendy?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to July 14th. Was this the night before the car rental for the killer's July trip to Tallahassee?
Correct.
All right, were Charlie Adelson and Meg Banois together that night?
They were, yes.
Okay, and how do we know?
We have communication. So then again, this is slide 151, a summary of communications between Ms. Bagbanoa, Charlie Adelson, Sigfredo Garcia. We see some voice activity and a text between them, and then we also have text messages recovered from Mr. Adelson's iCloud account, kind of go along with these. So we see that there is a phone call from Mr. Adelson at 8:53 p.m., and then we find a text message chat that says, just tried calling you at 8:56.
And do they appear to meet as far as their phone locations are concerned?
Yes. So this continues on. Ms. Bagbanoa basically indicates for Mr. Adelson to come down to her location. She lived south of him in South Florida. He responds or updates with an ETA of 5 men. And then he again updates his location as he's getting closer. We see here on slide 153 at 9:27 p.m. Mr. Adelson has an event with a cell site consistent with Ms. Bagbanoa's residence.
And after leaving the area of Meg Banoa's residence that night, does Meg Banoa contact Garcia?
She does, yes.
Okay, so what do we see here?
So this would be after Mr. Adelson was in the area of her residence. We see events after midnight, 12:42 a.m. and 1 a.m. that would be consistent with him leaving that area and potentially returning to his home.
Okay, and can you tell me about the communication after that?
I can. So what we see July 15th is the rental of the Prius. And to your point, again, and I'll stop here real quick, this is just another summary of the events between our primary subjects. And I'll highlight some of these as we talk about them. So these are events from the early morning hours of after the morning of the rental vehicle. And yes, we see that Ms. Bagbanoa makes a number of outgoing calls to Mr. Garcia between 12:48 a.m. and 1:56 a.m.
And who does Garcia call first thing in the morning?
Well, one of his first calls in the morning is to Comfort Rent-A-Car.
And that was the same rental car that he used for the June trip to Tallahassee.
That's correct.
Okay, but also the same one where he had to rent the second car, use the same service again.
That's correct.
All right. Now, did he end up calling another rental car company a little later in the day?
Yes. As we again look at the calls throughout the day, we see that at 4:28 p.m. He makes an outgoing call to Save Gas or Hybrid Rental, another rental car agency.
Okay. And were we able to, now throughout that day, when he's calling Comfort and then calling Hybrid, are he and Luis Rivera in communication?
Yes.
And are he and Meg Banoa in communication?
Yes.
All right. Was law enforcement able to find a rental agreement from Safe Gas?
We were. As we look at the rest of the call detail summary, we see here at the bottom, this is slide 160, that there is communication at just after 6 p.m. between Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera. And as asked, we were able to locate the rental agreement for hybrid rental. And what we see is at 6:15 p.m. is the time out for this vehicle. We see that they rented the Toyota Prius.
Okay, and who rented the Prius?
It's in the name of Luis Rivera.
And whose number is listed at the top under the name brother?
Mr. Garcia's.
Okay. And were their locations also consistent with Save Gas?
Yes, if we look at both Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera's cell site locations, they are consistent with the area of the Save Gas or hybrid rental.
All right, right after this car is rented around 6:15, this car that is the car that's going to make this final trip to Tallahassee to kill Dan Markel, are Magbanua and Charlie Adelson playing phone tag around that time?
Yes.
And did they finally talk on the phone about 15 minutes later at around 6:30?
Yes. So again, we're now looking at a call detail summary. This is slide 163 that shows the communication between them, our subjects, the evening of the 15th. We saw the communication between Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera just prior to the rental car pickup. As you mentioned, there is an attempt between Ms. Magbanua and Charlie Adelson. We see there's a very short duration calls. And then at 6:36 p.m., there is a 10-minute phone call between Charlie Adelson and Catherine Magbanua.
After that call, the 10-minute call with Magbanua, who does Charlie Adelson call within, I guess, about an hour or so after this car is rented and after he talks to Magbanua?
So we can see that starting at 7:30, Charlie Adelson calls the Adelson residence, the Donna and Harvey Adelson residence, for a 22-minute phone call, and then again at 7:54 p.m. for an 11-minute phone call.
Okay, so 22 minutes and then 11 minutes. Charlie
Yes.
Adelson calls the landline that night.
Correct.
Do the phone records show us which parent he may have been talking to on the landline at that time?
We know that there is a phone call from Harvey Adelson's cell phone to the residence later on. So he would have not been at the residence later on in the evening. At this time, there's no indication.
And can you walk us through that?
I can. So this is 8:06 p.m. We see the call from Harvey Adelson to the Adelson residence, about a 12-minute phone call.
Okay, and that would have been, is that about the last phone call from Charlie Adelson to the Adelson residence was at 7:54 p.m.?
Correct.
And they talked for 11 minutes?
Correct.
Okay, so at that point, it's going to be about, is that 8:05 when they get off the phone?
Approximately, yes.
Okay, and then who calls the Adelson residence at 8:06?
Harvey Adelson.
Okay, so it was 1 minute later that he called the Adelson residence.
Correct.
So would that be consistent with Charlie Adelson talking to Donna Adelson at the residence, since Harvey Adelson wouldn't be calling himself at the Adelson residence 1 minute later?
It could be yes.
Earlier we talked about how rare it is that Charlie Adelson calls his parents' landline. He only calls 28 times total in the, I think it was around 15 months in your time span around the time of this murder. So we saw during the June car rental there was one call to the landline, is that right?
Yes.
And for this car rental there's two calls right after the landline, is that right?
Correct.
Sorry, two calls to the landline right after the car rental, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you. So 3 total of those 28 were right after these cars were rented.
Yes.
Next, where did Garcia go after the car was rented?
Well, you have your fourth call to the residence.
Thank you.
At 8:20 p.m.
Okay.
Again, Charlie Adelson calling the residence for a 10-minute phone call.
All right, so 4 total of the 28 then,
Correct.
around the time of the car rentals. All right, what do we have next?
So on the 15th, continuing, we see that there is a number of communications. This again is after the time of the rental car. There's a number of communications or attempts between Ms. Magbanua and Mr. Garcia. Those continue through the evening and they end about 9:30 p.m. This is slide 172. If we look at the locations, slide 173, again, all of those attempts to reach each other ended at 9:30, and we can see that beginning at 9:30, Mr. Garcia's cell site locations will be consistent with the area of Ms. Magbanua's residence.
Did Garcia and Rivera's phones appear to leave the Miami area then the following day, July 16th of 2014?
Yes. And I'll point out also on this slide, in addition to the cell site locations, we did have GPS location for the rental vehicle, which we can also see here on the map by the blue square icon, that the rental vehicle, in addition to Mr. Garcia's cell sites, but the rental vehicle location would be consistent with Magbanua's residence as well.
So just like we saw on the June trip, the cell sites that we're getting from the cell records are lining up and are consistent with the Spirion GPS records from these rental cars.
Correct.
Okay. Can you walk us through the travel of the cell phones on July 16th?
Yes, so we see again, slide 175 here, we have cell site locations for this trip for both Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera, and we can see that they're consistent with leaving the South Florida area the early afternoon of July 16th. And as we see through both of their cell site usages, as we continue kind of up through this map, we can see they reach the Tallahassee area in the early morning hours of the 17th.
Now on the 17th, are they ever consistent with being near the Markel residence on Trescott Drive?
Yes, we do see here that both Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera have cell site and sector usage that will be consistent with Mr. Markel's residence. And this is on July 17th in the late morning to early afternoon hours.
Okay, and that cell site, is that right near Winthrop Park where we saw them in the last, for the June trip?
That's correct.
I wanted to ask you one more thing about the June trip. Law enforcement didn't know about this June trip before Luis Rivera informed them there was actually another trip to Tallahassee. Is that right?
That's correct.
Stagg, please rephrase your question.
Did law enforcement know about the June trip before Luis Rivera's statement?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And so once we found out about the June trip, were we able to get Rivera's records? And Rivera had records that showed his locations for both June and July.
That's correct.
But Garcia's records had locations for July, but because it had been so long since this trip, they didn't have locations for June anymore. Is that correct?
It wasn't the delay in getting the records, it was the transition of the companies that those records were unfortunately not available to us.
Thank you. Okay, so we just talked about their locations were consistent with being near Markel's home on July 17th. Are you able to show us the communication on the call detail records between all the co-conspirators on the 16th and 17th during this trip to Tallahassee?
Yes. So again, should be slide 179. We are looking at another summary of the communications between the subjects, and this spans July 16th in the morning through the early morning hours of July 18th.
And do we have the same pattern here where Magbanua is the only one contacting Garcia and Rivera, and Charlie is the only Adelson talking to Magbanua?
That's correct. If we go back to kind of the tally of communications, again, we can see the highest number of communications between Charlie Adelson and Catherine Magbanua, between Magbanua and Garcia, and then as the others, as the others have communications as well.
Okay. And these communications, they also cover attempted communications, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And some of these communications may be text, some may be calls, some may be mundane. Some of these people have relationships anyway. We're just showing all the communications that, or attempted communications that did take place.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So I want to focus on the night before Dan Markel's murder, late that night. Using a timeline, can you walk us through the communication that evening on July 17th, going into the early morning hours of July 18th?
Yes. So again, kind of same format here. We see, this is slide 185, we see calls between Charlie Adelson and Donna Adelson at 10:18 and 10:29, both of them for just over 4 minutes.
Okay, and what's next?
We see at about 11:40, there is communication between Mr. Garcia and Ms. Bagbanowa.
Okay, and what happens after that?
Additional communications between Catherine and Sigfredo, and then Charlie calls Catherine just after midnight.
Okay, and is there any more after that?
There is, we see that Ms. Bagbanowa calls Charlie again at 12:34 a.m. for a short duration call, and then Charlie calls her back at 1:03 a.m.
Okay, and the Charlie calls Donna at 1:02 a.m. Was there no duration on that?
No duration on that.
Okay. All right, so then moving on to later that morning, which is going to be the morning of July 18th when Dan Markel was murdered. What can you tell us about all the co-conspirators' communication that morning between 8 a.m. and 12:30 p.m.?
So again, another call detail summary between those subjects. Here, slide 192, we're referencing the time when the shooting of Mr. Markel occurred. And in combination with the iCloud return with text message content, in the forensic examination of Wendy Adelson's phone, the communication records from the carriers, we kind of have a more complete idea of the communications between these persons the morning of the 18th.
Okay, and the yellow line there shows at what time in the call detail records the homicide occurred?
Yes.
Can you walk us through all the cell phone evidence that morning?
So again, just looking at the communications between our primary subjects, Wendy had the calendar event that for 8 a.m. for fixed TV.
And I want to ask you about that. Did she often have calendar events in her phone?
She did, yes.
And she would often delete those events?
Correct.
All right. When was this calendar event deleted?
I do not know.
Okay. Was it when she was with law enforcement the afternoon of July 18th? Did they take her phone and run a Cellbrite report on it?
Yes. So this extraction occurred on the late evening hours of July 18th.
Okay. And in the Cellbrite, it would have shown that the calendar event was deleted. Is that right?
Correct.
So would she have had to have deleted it before her cell phone was Cellbrighted that evening?
Yes.
Okay. So sometime between 8 a.m. when the event is on her phone and that evening it was deleted.
It could have been deleted before that date.
Okay. All right. So first call to Donna Adelson and Wendy Adelson. Can you show that to us?
Yes. So again, we see at 8:09 a.m. there's a call from Wendy to Donna.
Okay. Let me ask you one thing from the night before. Was it unusual for Charlie Adelson and Donna Adelson to communicate or attempt to communicate at 1 a.m. that late?
They're communicate over a pretty broad range of time. I think it was pretty clear that that event was a misdial that he immediately corrected and called Ms. Bagbanowa, and that's why there was no duration to it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to that morning, we saw the calendar event, and then does Donna place the first call that morning between the co-conspirators to Wendy?
Wendy calls Donna, let's back up. So yes, Wendy actually calls Donna at 8:09.
Okay. And what's next?
Donna attempts back at about the same time frame. Little phone tag maybe. And then we see a text message from Donna to Wendy again about the Best Buy service.
And she says, they're on their way over now to help with the TV sets in your living room.
Correct.
All right, what's next?
Wendy has a text to Charlie stating, "This is so sweet."
And that was deleted?
Correct.
And would that have had to have been deleted then before the Cellbrite that afternoon, sometime between when it was received at 8:20 and the Cellbrite that afternoon?
Correct.
All right. What's next?
Wendy receives a voicemail from Dan Markel.
Okay. And do you have that voicemail where you could play it for us?
I believe so.
Hey Wendy, good morning. It's 9 o'clock on Friday. Just wanted to say I'm hoping to pick the boys up early this afternoon and get them sick. And then have them ready for you around 4:30 or 5. You can get them up from either at your or at the house. So let me know if that's okay with you. And also love to chat with you about that situation in school, and Thursday stuff and all that. I'm going to be at the gym probably between 9:15 and 10:30, but happy to chat. And go for a walk in school, something like that. Let me know. Okay, bye.
What time was that voicemail left for Wendy Adelson?
9:04 a.m.
Okay. What happens after that?
So Charlie calls Wendy, or attempts to call Wendy, at 9:12.
And that's 29 seconds?
Correct.
Okay. What's next?
Wendy texts Dan Markel, stating the repairman at my house now. I am picking up the boys at 3 p.m., so your swim idea is a no-go today.
So do we know exactly what time she listened to that? Was it 9:04?
9:04 was the voicemail.
Do we know exactly what time she listened to that 9:04 voicemail?
We do not.
But it seems she would have listened to it before this text at 9:12.
She does seem to acknowledge the content of the voicemail in this text message reply.
So she heard it sometime between 9:04 and 9:12.
Correct.
Okay. Now, in that message, he mentions he's going to the gym, right? At
He did.
9:15. But from the surveillance videos that we have, by the time he got to the gym at 9:15, were the killers already tailing him?
Appeared to be so, yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with Luis Rivera's statement that they had been tailing him all morning? They followed him from his house to the preschool that morning.
Correct.
All right, so can you walk us through these messages starting at 9:12 a.m. that Wendy Adelson has with Dan Markel?
Yes. So, again, she indicated that the swim idea was a no-go. Mr. Markel responds about his day ending at 4:30.
Meaning that he gets to keep the boys under the schedule until 4:30.
Correct.
Okay.
As again, in this message, he says, under our schedule. And he continues, and you had them until 5 last week. This is at 9:13 a.m.
Okay.
Wendy Adelson responds, because you needed to food shop. This is at 9:15. Mr. Markel replies, you weren't making them available until 5.
And at this point, he's already in the Premier parking lot around that time.
Would be correct, yes.
Okay.
Wendy
What if-
responds, if it was 4:30 last Friday, you should have told me that. Why tell me now? This is at 9:19. And also at 9:19, Wendy receives a call from Charlie. Lasts a little over 18 minutes.
Okay. So at the point where Dan Markel's already at the gym at 9:19, right?
Yes,
And the killers have already followed him to the gym at that point, right?
correct.
And this is per surveillance footage from Premier.
Correct.
At this point, Wendy and Charlie have an 18 and 17 second phone conversation.
An 18-minute and 17-second, yes.
Okay. What happens next after this phone conversation?
So after the phone call started, Wendy would have received the incoming text because I was being nice. And then about the time that phone call would have ended, Wendy texts Dan back.
And does she say, nice was fun while it lasted. See you at 4:30 today at my house then?
Correct.
So after this 18-minute phone call with Charlie Adelson, does she seemingly change her stance in the argument, she kind of concedes the argument and agrees with what Dan Markel is asking. He can keep the boys until 4:30.
Correct.
And then within about an hour of this message was Dan Markel killed.
He was shot, yes.
Shot, thank you. Walk us through what happens next.
So there are additional communications. Charlie attempts to call Donna at 9:38. Charlie attempts to call Catherine at 9:57. Return attempt just after. And then Charlie and Catherine talk for almost 7 minutes at 9:58.
Okay.
Charlie calls Wendy 10:06, short duration. Catherine attempts Charlie again, 10:07, 10:08. The return call at 10:09 for about 6 minutes. And that's the last of the communications prior to the shooting.
Okay, is Charlie also that morning playing phone tag with the attorney representing him in the divorce, Stephen Webster?
Dan Markel is.
I'm sorry, Dan Markel, thank you. And did Dan Markel have communication where he's playing phone tag with Stephen Webster?
Yes, this is slide 220, and we see from Mr. Markel's records several incoming, outgoing text or voice attempts with Stephen Webster.
And are they basically setting up a time to talk later in the morning?
Your Honor, facts not evidence, calls for speculation.
Staying as the facts, not evidence, unless you can lay a foundation for this was doing.
Have you reviewed the text in these call detail records?
Briefly,
Did it appear that they were setting up a time to talk later that day?
yes.
Okay. Is the last outgoing communication from Dan Markel 10:34 a.m.?
Yes.
And Dan Markel would have been killed within a few minutes of sending that outgoing message?
Correct.
All right, I want to shift now to the cell phone locations in this case. You walked us through at the beginning of your presentation yesterday Dan Markel's locations on the morning of the murder: Trescott, preschool, gym. What can you tell us about Rivera and Garcia's locations that morning?
So again, as you mentioned, slide 222 here, we see the locations that he was. We know his approximate arrival, the arrival of the Prius into Premier Health and Fitness just after 9 a.m. And what we see now up to slide 224, these are the cell site locations for Mr. Garcia and Mr. Rivera. Again, Mr. Garcia is in orange, Rivera in blue, but these are the first events with location. We have the morning of the 18th, July 18th, and we see that Mr. Rivera and Mr. Garcia's location are both consistent with them being in the area of Premier Health and Fitness.
Okay, and what was the last event with location data that we have for them while consistent with Premier Gym?
It's going to be these that you see here. So 9:58 for Mr. Garcia, 9:46 for Mr. Rivera.
When was their next event with location after these events?
It was afternoon.
Okay, can you walk us through that?
I can. We see, again, Mr. Markel's vehicle leaving the Premier Health and Fitness, 10:38. The Prius traveling just after. And then we see the location information here. This is slide 227. And again, just looking at the cell site locations, Mr. Garcia's in orange, Rivera's in blue. We see that those events we just saw at Premier Health and Fitness are at the top. And the next event we have, you see, is the 12:30 event for Mr. Garcia, where they appear to be on 75 traveling southbound.
So from Tallahassee to around the Gainesville area, there were no events with location.
Correct.
Could that be consistent with them turning their phones off after they left Premier Gym?
It could, yes.
Sometimes when people commit crimes, do they try to turn their phones off during that time?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Sustained unless you can lay a foundation for this particular point, Ms. Stephen.
I'll move on, Judge. All right, so let's start at 12:30. Who was the call to 12:32?
So this is a summary of Mr. Garcia's records for the morning of the 18th. And what we see is his first outgoing call which happens to be that same event we have with location at 12:30, was to Ms. Magbanua.
Even though the call appears to be a short duration, is there any evidence that it went to voicemail or Magbanua did not answer the call?
There's no evidence it was not received.
What do the phone records indicate about the status of Garcia's phone from the last event at Premier to the time he called Catherine Magbanua at 12:30?
Well, we do see at 12:18 and 12:19, we see 2 incoming calls that do not create locations, which means they did not actually reach the handset. The handset was not in communication with the network. So we know, at least for those times, that the handset was not, again, in communication with the network. Power down, battery dead. However, and then we also see these short codes, this 122 and 129, that are coming into the phone at 12:29, and these are consistent with notifications to the handset about missed calls or voicemails or other things. So those events would be consistent with that phone being powered back on or returning to the network at about that 12:29 time frame.
Okay. And once it comes back on at 12:29, the first call is to Magbanua?
Correct.
Switching gears here, I want to talk about Wendy Adelson's locations during that morning and early afternoon time frame when Dan Markel was murdered. Are you familiar with Wendy Adelson's statement about her locations on the day of Dan Markel's murder and the route that she took on July 18th after her TV repair appointment?
Yes.
Okay, can you walk us through that?
So again, we see her residence here at the time, the Aqua Ridge Way. This is slide 230. Again, just the flag there indicates the area of her residence.
So is Aqua Ridge kind of off Centerville Road, north of I-10?
Yes.
All right. Based on the location info from her call detail records, can you determine the approximate time she encountered the roadblock on Trescott Drive?
I can, yes.
Okay.
So we also have a receipt from ABC Fine Wine and Spirits that is time-stamped at 12:49 p.m. on the 18th. So looking at communication records with location, we see that she begins a voice call at 12:31 p.m. Her cell site is listed as the purple dot and starts at 12:31. We can see, this is slide 232. As we come down to about the middle here, she has an event at 12, or communication during this phone call with a cell site at 12:35, and then that call ends at 12:47. So we see again that will be consistent with her leaving the area of her residence sometime around the 12:31 time frame, and being in the area of, and this 12:47 cell site could be the ABC Liquors as well. We know the receipt time's just a couple of minutes later. So with that, and to slide 233, with that receipt being at 12:49, the voice call ending at 12:47, she would have passed by Mr. Markel's residence just prior to that.
Okay, meaning maybe somewhere around 12:35 to 12:45.
Correct.
Did Dan Markel have he and Wendy Adelson's children the morning of July 18th?
I'm sorry?
Did Dan Markel have the children the morning of July 18th and he took them to school that morning?
He did, yes.
Okay. Looking at Wendy Adelson's call detail records, were you able to see her calls, who they were from and to, and the times on July 18th of 2014?
Yes. So slide 234, a summary of her calls that morning. And we can see in the highlighted sections here calls that would have been made or received after the time that she would have passed by the Markel residence.
When she encountered that roadblock, the crime scene tape with the police cars behind it in front of the Markel residence, did she attempt to call Dan Markel to make sure he or the kids were okay?
She did not.
Did she attempt to call the children's daycare creative preschool to make sure that they made it to school and there wasn't some type of incident?
She did not.
Did she attempt to call 911 or law enforcement to see what was going on since her children had been staying on that street?
She did not.
Did she just continue to the liquor store and then on to lunch?
Correct.
Are you familiar with the area of Thomasville Road and I-10 where the restaurant Mosaic used to be, which was the restaurant she went to lunch at that day?
I am.
Were there any liquor stores in that area back in July 2014?
There were, yes.
Okay, can you thank you.
So what we see, slide 237, again, we are showing the residence, her residence at the time on Aqua Ridge, and her ultimate destination, which was Mosaic off of Thomasville Road. So clearly the next slide here shows, as calculated by the mapping software, the most direct route between those two locations as far as where she was heading.
And then were there any liquor stores in the area of Mosaic at that time?
There were. So at that time there was Publix Liquors on Thomasville Road there, very close to Mosaic. There was Market Square Liquors off Thomasville, and also another ABC location a little further north on Thomasville Road.
Would those Publix and Market Square Liquors be a lot closer to Aqua Ridge and Mosaic than the one she ultimately went to?
They would, and this is slide 242, which shows the route she ended up taking versus what is calculated as the most efficient route. We can see there's a difference of about 9 minutes longer to go the other way.
So she went 9 minutes out of the way to go to the ABC Liquors next to Dan Markel's home.
Correct.
All right, switching gears again. July 18th, the last slide that we saw of Garcia and Rivera's locations was around the Gainesville area when the phones were powered back on and the 12:30 call was made by Garcia to Catherine McVanois. Does the next map show Garcia and Rivera continuing to come back down to the Miami area?
Yes, we do see here slide 244 as another large time frame without location information, but we see in the late afternoon, early evening hours, the use on the phones returns, and we see that they are getting into the South Florida area.
Okay, once back in Miami, did they stop somewhere where they were caught on video?
Yes, so we have an ATM withdrawal from Mr. Rivera. We can see that that occurred at 6:46 p.m. and through the records we were able to determine the location of that specific ATM where that transaction occurred in Pembroke Pine.
Okay.
So slide 247 shows the location of the ATM by the yellow flag in the middle. The, again, blue and orange circles represent the cell sites their handsets were using at the time, and we can see that their locations are consistent with the area of that ATM around the time of that transaction.
All right. Moving on to July 18th. Okay, thank you.
So from that ATM, there were also surveillance images obtained of Mr. Rivera driving, Mr. Garcia in the passenger seat, and again of the green Prius.
And then after that, was Garcia in communication with Catherine McVanois that evening?
Yes.
Was McVanois also in communication with her friend Yendra Mascaro that evening?
Yes. So here again, slide 250 is the summary of the communications at that afternoon and evening. And we can highlight here several communications between Ms. McVanois and Mr. Garcia. And in addition to those, we do see communications between Ms. McVanois and Ms. Mascaro.
And was there evidence that McVanois went to Rivera's house to meet up with Garcia on the night of July 18th?
There was. As we see again, Ms. McVanois' cell sites represented here in red. She has events up to 8:46 that are consistent with the area of her residence. And we can see as we move across the slide here, 253, events at 9:20 and 9:23 and ultimately 9:42 that will be consistent with her traveling away from the area of her residence and toward the area of Mr. Rivera's residence.
And are you familiar with Magbanawah's statement that she dropped her kids off at Yindra Mascaro's residence for the night that night, on the night of July 18th?
Yes,
And whose residence is on the way to Rivera's?
Miss Mascaro's.
And is Magbanawah then at Rivera's residence by around 9:42 p.m.?
I'm sorry, you have a question.
Your Honor, there's a question from the jury.
You use that one.
Thank
The
you.
bailiff will take you to the restroom. Everyone can be seated. Ms. Dugan, you may continue with the examination of Sergeant Woodward.
Okay, so the night of July 18th, was Catherine Magbanawah's cell phone consistent with Rivera's residence by around 9:42 p.m.?
Yes, just after that. We see from the call summary, the last communication between Ms. Magbanawah and Mr. Garcia was at 9:46 p.m. And what we see as her events at 9:46 and 9:47 are very consistent with Mr. Rivera's residence. So that kind of coincides with the end of their back and forth communication, with her location becoming consistent with Rivera's residence, where Mr. Garcia's location was also consistent.
Okay, and could that be consistent with her communicating with Garcia? That communication ends once she arrives at Rivera's residence, where Garcia and Rivera are also there.
Correct.
Now, after being there for a little while, does Catherine Magbanawah communicate with Charlie Adelson?
She does, and again, back to the summary, we see that there is an outgoing call from Mr. Adelson at 10:12, very, very short duration, and then Ms. Magbanawah calls Mr. Adelson back at 10:20 for about a 2-minute phone call.
And tell us about Catherine Magbanawah's location for that 10:20 call to Charlie Adelson.
So what we see, the 10:20 and 10:22, is the last times that her location is consistent with the area around Mr. Rivera's residence.
Were we able to find any other evidence of her and Charlie Adelson's plans for the night of July 18th?
Yes, and again, that was slide 257 we just spoke of. This is communication from Mr. Adelson's iCloud, and the afternoon and evening of July 18th, where she asked, how's work been, hon? He says, been busy. And then later about to start a big case, which she acknowledges.
Okay, and did they discuss their plans for that night?
They did. 8:22 p.m. She texts, you're still at work. Mr. Adelson, Charlie Adelson, responds, just finishing. I'm not really feeling good. Maybe we can just hang at my house.
And that message from him is at 8:23 p.m. to Catherine Magbanawah?
That's correct.
Okay, and he says he's not feeling good before she comes to his house.
Correct.
All right. Are you familiar with a call that Wendy Adelson made while at TPD in front of TPD investigators to inform Donna Adelson of Dan Markel's shooting?
Yes.
And was that call made by Wendy Adelson to Donna Adelson at 7:04 p.m.?
Yes, there were actually two close together there.
Okay, thank you. Which co-conspirator did Donna Adelson call after that?
So looking at Donna Adelson's locations and communication, there is a text message from Donna to Charlie, a chat that says, call us ASAP.
Okay, and what about after that?
So what we see is looking at the combined location information from both Donna Adelson and Harvey Adelson's cell phones, their locations. We see that they are consistent with leaving the South Beach area around or a little before 8 p.m. and beginning to travel north. We see locations here on this slide through about 8:29 p.m. And if we continue, we see events at 8:35 p.m. again in the North Miami area, and then we don't have any other usable events with location until 10:53, at which point they're in the north area down here.
Okay. Can you go back to just the slide right before this? Okay, so she receives a call from Wendy Adelson around 7:04 p.m. She's in touch with Charlie Adelson by she's attempting to get in contact with him by around 7:12, and within an hour, they are leaving South Beach and headed north in Miami.
Correct.
They being Donna Adelson.
And Harvey Adelson,
And Harvey
yes.
Adelson. Thank you. All right, so can we go to your next slide? You said that their last cell phone communication with location data was in North Miami at 8:35 p.m. and their next event with location after that was at 10:53 p.m. Are you familiar with Catherine Magdano's statement that Charlie Adelson told her that his parents had just been at her home the night of Dan Markel's murder before she arrived at the home?
Her home or his home?
I'm sorry, his home, Charlie Adelson's home.
Yes.
Charlie Adelson's parents had just been at Charlie Adelson's home before Magdano arrived that night.
Correct.
Okay. Is Charlie's home located between the location we see there for the cell site at 8:35 and the location for the cell site at 10:53?
Yes, we see here the location referenced by the flag of where Mr. Adelson's residence was at the time.
Is there evidence in the phone records that Donna Adelson went to Charlie Adelson's home on the night of Dan Markel's murder?
So there is another communication from Miss Donna Adelson at 8:59 p.m. stating outside your house.
Outside your house, and she's sending that message to Charlie Adelson, is that right?
Correct.
What can you tell us about her locations that night and how long she could have spent at Charlie's residence after sending this message?
Your Honor, object calls for speculation.
On the rule, he may answer based on his analysis of the records. However, Sergeant, you are not to speculate or offer any opinions beyond anything that you have not directly researched for these matters. You may answer the question.
Yes, sir. So the question asked of me is, it possible for, given the cell site locations and times, is it possible there was a period of time where Donna and Harvey could have stopped at Charlie Adelson's residence? So to do this analysis, I looked at the events that we had with usable locations, and we see that there is this 6-minute phone call, and this is the 8:35 location we saw in the previous slide. But we see this phone call actually begins on the cell site in the bottom of this slide, which should be 263, and it ends on the cell site at the top. So to conduct an analysis of potential time between points, we need to establish a point to start measuring from. So my estimation of the approximate handset's location between these two cell sites for this phone call is approximately the area of that 832 little call out here in the middle. So that is the point that I started, again, with based on these two phone calls, or the beginning and ending cell sites, estimated that the handset was approximately in the area of that marker at 832. Same thing for the ending phone call, or the next phone call that we had at 10:53. We see the cell site that it begins on and the cell site that it ends on a little further north. And so that will be consistent again with the handset continuing to travel along the area of the turnpike. And for our ending time here, I again estimated the location of the handset to be where that white call-out box is at approximately 10:53 p.m. So with those 2 points, and using the Esri route planning tool, Esri is the mapping software that we use, it tells us that that travel should have taken approximately about an hour and 4 minutes. And what we see is between 8:32 and 10:53 is actually 2 hours and 21 minutes. So the distance traveled is not consistent with the time consumed.
You spoke about Esri. Is that also how Department of Transportation estimates mileage as well?
Yes, if you go to the official Department of Transportation site to get mileage for business travel, they use the same software.
What can you determine about when Donna Adelson would have reached Charlie Adelson's residence according to this estimated travel time?
So if we look at this, and again, we see the area of Charlie Adelson's residence, we have the message at 8:59 that says outside your house. Charlie responds to that about 20 minutes later with 10 men, 10 minutes. So again, using the same route planning, we see that that should have taken approximately 25 minutes to travel from our 8:32 starting point to Charlie Adelson's residence. And so that would have put the estimated time of arrival at his residence 8:57, and the text message is sent at 8:59. So that would be pretty consistent.
So the text message time is consistent with the estimated time it would take to get from the last known location to his house.
Correct.
And in that text message, she says, outside your house to him.
Correct.
And then he gives her an estimated amount of time before he'll be at his house, 10 men.
Correct. And what we see looking at Charlie Adelson's locations, the 9:19, when the text message is sent, we can see the cell site that his handset is using. As we continue down slide 268, we can see that he has communication at 9:21, and then the next cell site he has is, or cell site time he has is 9:40, and that 9:40 time he has become consistent with the area of his residence. So he reaches his residence sometime between 9:21 and 9:40. If we look at the 9:19 time of the text message, that 10 minutes is about correct for when he would arrive home.
So he says he's 10 minutes when he's about 10 minutes away en route to his house
Correct.
after receiving the outside your house text. Is that right?
Correct.
And what do we see here?
This is just a close-up of that, again showing the cell sites when he would be consistent with his residence, arriving sometime before 9:40.
And where was Donna Adelson's next event with actual location data after she said she was outside Charlie Adelson's house and he responded 10 men?
Again, the next event that we have is the 1053 events, looking at their combined records, is the next usable location event that we have. So if we look at the time that it would take to travel from Charlie Adelson's residence to that point, we see that based on the route planning, approximately 48 minutes. And again, the actual travel time based on those cell site usages was 1 hour and 54 minutes. So we have about an hour of unaccounted for time.
So it took her 1 hour and 54 minutes to travel to the 1053 location from North Miami, which left 1 hour and 6 minutes unaccounted for.
This would be the travel time from Charlie Adelson's residence
Thank
to
you.
that 1053 point. Did take 1 hour and 54 minutes, which was estimated to only take 48.
So how long could she and Charlie Adelson then have overlapped at his house during that time?
The maximum would be approximately 1 hour and 6 minutes.
And that would be including the time that she would have been waiting for him to arrive?
It would, yes.
Okay. So let's say she waited 10 minutes or so for him to arrive. Actually, he sent it 20 minutes after he received the text, right?
Correct. Charlie's response to Donna was about 20 minutes after she had texted outside your residence, and that indicates a 10-minute estimated time of arrival. So about 30 minutes would be probably the shortest that she would have waited, but you still have a little over a half hour of overlap.
Okay, thank you. So total amount of time, 1 hour, 6 minutes, and they could have spent about 30 minutes or so together during that time at his residence.
Could have, yes.
What else do you know about Donna Adelson's travels that evening?
So we have an additional chat later on.
Does he check back in with her to see if she got there okay?
Yes. At 11:56, Charlie texts, "Did you get to your hotel okay? Love you." She responds, "Thank you for asking. We have it on MapQuest. Hilton Inn on International Drive. We should arrive at 1:25 a.m. Get some rest. We'll talk in the morning." So again, looking at the point of the 1053 estimated location to the location she states she's going to, we see that should have taken about 2 hours and 20 minutes, and which would have made the arrival time around 1:13. Her stated arrival, estimated arrival was 1:25. So again, these are pretty close.
So no large amount of time unaccounted for during that journey.
That's correct.
The large amount of time that you have unaccounted for where she says she's outside Charlie Adelson's house is from the 8:35 spot to the 10:53 spot.
Correct.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to do this drive that Donna Adelson took from North Miami to the 1053 location on the night of July 18th?
I did, yes.
And when did you do that drive?
I did that July 18th of this year.
And was that on a Friday night this year, just as her drive was on a Friday night in 2014?
Yes.
And on the same date, July 18th?
Correct.
Can you tell us about that drive?
I simply traveled to that area, to the area of that first estimated location at 8:32. I started an exit south of that so that I was at traveling speed, and I traveled to Charlie Adelson's residence. I noted the time and mileage that it took me to get there, and then I traveled from Charlie Adelson's residence to the 1053 spot just to make sure that the roadways, all of those which have not changed, allowed for me to get off the turnpike, get back on, continue travel, and about how long it took me to do it.
Were you able to easily get off the exit for Charlie Adelson's house and then get back on again?
Yes.
And was the time it took to drive from Donna Adelson's 8:32 location in North Miami to Charlie Adelson's residence consistent with the estimated time?
It was. I was within just a few minutes.
Ms. Kappelman just reminded me, you said it was on the same day. Did you also do it at the same time of day?
I did, yes.
Okay, so Friday evening around between 8:30 and 11.
Yes, within just a couple of minutes of 8:32. It was a little hard to gauge my travel time to get to that exact point. I had been off a minute or two when I crossed that specific point, but it was very, very close to the exact time of day.
And was the time it took to drive from Charlie Adelson's residence to her 1053 location consistent with the estimated time on Esri?
It was, yes.
Okay. All right, so moving on to the next day, July 19th. If you could walk us through the morning after the murder of Dan Markel, where's Charlie Adelson located at that time?
Charlie Adelson has locations consistent with his residence.
And what can you tell us about the communication from Meg Banois' phone that morning?
I can. So first we looked at her locations, and we recalled that we had that after 10 p.m. Cell site location where she was leaving the area of Mr. Rivera's residence. And actually the next locations that we have for her is the morning of July 19th. And we see again, this is slide 274, and we can see that her locations beginning at 9:44 would be consistent with her traveling south from the area of Mr. Adelson's residence to the area of either her residence or Mr. Rivera's.
Now, once or before this 9:44 a.m. Call, did she have some calls the night before that were routed to voicemail?
Yes, that were not, they did not reach the phone, yes.
What was her last location then before the locations we see here? Was it the 10:20-something location we saw from the night before when she's leaving Rivera's residence and talking to Charlie Adelson?
Correct.
Okay. And in the text messages between her and Charlie Adelson that night, she was planning to go over to his house that night because he wasn't feeling well.
Correct.
Okay. So looking at this slide, does it appear that her phone is then the first active location or the first active event with location we have? She's coming south down from Charlie Adelson's residence that next morning.
Correct.
Are you familiar with Catherine Regbano's statement that she spent the night at Charlie Adelson's home the night of Dan Markel's murder, and the next morning she took the money that he gave her for the murder to the area of Rivera's residence?
Yes.
Was there evidence of that in the phone records?
So what we see, again, back to your initial question as far as the cell phone or the call activity, we're looking at the summary of calls in the morning of July 19th. And we see those events that we saw on the map, consistent with her travel south. She is attempting to call Mr. Garcia. So we have a number of outgoing calls between 9:44 and 9:46, including a text message where she's trying to reach Mr. Garcia.
When she can't reach Garcia, does she start trying to call some friends of his to try to get a hold of him?
Yeah, so immediately after that, at 9:47, she makes an outgoing call to Anthony Ortiz.
Does she also try to call Luis Rivera that morning to find Garcia?
She did not.
Okay. Does the attempted communication with Garcia stop at 10:31 a.m.?
Yes, so again, our first set of calls here, she's trying to reach Mr. Garcia. She's unable to. She calls Mr. Ortiz. And now what we see starting at 9:49, Mr. Ortiz is attempting to call Mr. Garcia. Luis Rivera is now attempting to call Garcia. And it starts this flurry of back and forth phone calls with Luis Rivera and Anthony Ortiz trying to find Mr. Garcia, or trying to reach Mr. Garcia. And that continues through about 10:20 in the morning.
Okay, so Magbanwa's calling Garcia's friend Ortiz. Ortiz is trying to call Garcia, and Ortiz also calls Rivera to try to get a hold of Garcia.
That is correct.
Okay. Eventually, do all of these attempted calls to Garcia stop, and at what point?
Well, they certainly tame down. What we see for the first time is at 10:20, so we've had this period of time where everyone's trying to reach Mr. Garcia. Catherine Magbanwa gets a call from Luis Rivera from his actual primary phone number, and they talk for about 1 minute and 40 seconds. So after that, then we see that Ms. Magbanwa communicates with Mr. Rivera a couple of times. She does again try to get hold of Mr. Garcia, but all of that concludes at about 10:30 in the morning.
And was there any evidence as to why there wasn't location data for Garcia that morning, and why no one can get a hold of him?
He had, dumped his phone. He had.
Staying to establish the foundation for the witness to testify to.
What could you tell from his phone records, the evidence in this case, about why no one could get a hold of Mr. Garcia?
So Mr. Garcia's records indicate that in the early morning hours of the 19th, that phone left the network, was no longer in communication with the network. There are a number of inbound calls that never reach the handset. They do not produce location information or duration, so his phone is not in communication with the network. And that continues through the end of the records. That phone never returns to service, never makes or receives an actual phone call from that morning of the 19th through the duration of the records that we have.
What can you tell us about the locations of Rivera and Magbanwa at 10:31 in the time period after that, once all of these attempted communications stop?
So again, we have the flurry of communications. That last call is at 10:31 a.m. And if we look at Ms. Magbanwa's locations at 10:31, she is consistent with Rivera's residence, and Mr. Rivera's cell site locations are also consistent with his residence.
And are you familiar with Rivera's statement that he was able to find Garcia that morning at a girl's house and brought him back to Rivera's residence?
Correct.
Now, when is the next communication on Catherine Magbanwa's cell phone after that with location data?
The next that we see is at 11:23 a.m.
This is about 50 minutes later?
Correct.
All right, and is her location at 11:23 a.m. consistent with Mascaro's residence?
It would be consistent with the way to Mascaro's residence.
Okay, thank you. Could this be consistent with her then leaving Rivera's residence after a period of time and heading back towards Mascaro's residence to pick up her children?
It could be, yes.
All right, switching gears again. Were you involved in securing a wiretap of some of the suspects in this case back in 2016?
I was.
What is a wiretap?
A wiretap is an active way for law enforcement to be able to gain information or intelligence. Everything that we've talked about in the historical records are just that, historical. We're getting records that already existed and having those provided to us. A A wiretap is an ongoing intercept where we are able to, in real time, see the calls that are being placed, the outgoing, inbound, durations, all of those things, in addition to the content of most of those. So text message content and voice content, we're actually able to listen to those calls in real time while they're occurring. So this is a real-time, ongoing, active monitoring of the communications.
In order for a wiretap to be in place, does there have to be an order signed by a judge? That order has to be sent to the phone carrier so that the calls can be monitored by law enforcement.
Correct.
Were we able to monitor the content of the calls between the subjects in this case back in the time that these events happened, back in June and July of 2014?
No, again, we were investigating after the fact. All of that was historical. The carriers do not retain the content of voice calls. They don't record everything that you say and make it available to us. So we had no option to listen or know the content of those communications back then, outside of what we recover in text messages.
Okay, so the wiretap in this case is during the investigation, once law enforcement had identified the identity of these subjects and was trying to listen to see whether they talked about the crime.
That is correct. It is prospective. It is ongoing, real time.
All right, can you explain to the jury what type of equipment is needed for a wiretap?
Well, we use a variety of equipment. There is carrier-based equipment. They have equipment that is able to basically mirror those phone calls, that traffic, and provide it to law enforcement. We have equipment, computer servers, that are able to receive that communication and then provide it to monitoring stations, which are essentially laptops. We have headphones and software that allows us to see this information. It decodes the information that is sent to us from the carrier. So we can see in real time, it pops up with the time of the call, the phone numbers, cell site locations sometimes, and other information. And if it is a call that has audio, then there's an indication that there's audio, and we're able to actually listen to that through the headphones.
Does the software give the listeners, law enforcement, the ability to stop and start the recordings?
It does, yes.
And are synopsis of the recordings done by law enforcement?
Yes.
Is there any involvement by the actual phone carrier, like the company?
There is, yes.
Is monitoring of the calls done live and in real time?
It is.
And do the people who are monitoring these intercepts have to go through a certain type of training in order to do that?
They do. They have to go through what we call minimization training. The interception of communications requires that non-relevant or communications that are not pertinent to the actual crimes be minimized or not listened to. So we call that minimization training, and everyone who listens to or has opportunity to hear any audio from the wire has to go through that training.
Okay, and are the people monitoring it also thoroughly briefed on the case?
They are. Part of that training is a requirement to read the affidavit that was authorizing the wiretap and to get a briefing from the case agents so that they know in great detail all the elements of the case so that they're able to detect during the phone calls if that conversation is actually relevant to some part of the investigation. They need to know financial things, relationships, hierarchy, those kind of things. So again, they are briefed by the case agent and they're required to read the documents.
If the phone conversation is not relevant to the crime or is privileged in some way, is there a mechanism to stop that recording by law enforcement?
Yes.
And is that the purpose of that to protect people's privacy if they're not talking about something relevant to the crime?
Yes, the purpose of that is to allow us to minimize those parts of the conversation that are not pertinent to the crime and in compliance with the order.
Is minimization a choice by law enforcement, or are they required to minimize irrelevant portions?
It's a requirement.
Okay. Are you limited in time, or is law enforcement who's listening limited in time, in the time that they have to decide whether what they're listening to is relevant to the crime or not?
There are a number of things that go into that. Time is one of them, yes. We have a guideline for how long we should listen. to make that determination, and then we have some guidelines for how frequently we can come back and check the ongoing conversation to see if that conversation has turned criminal or turned into something relevant to the investigation.
So the officer can then go back in and listen in again to see if they are now talking about something relevant.
Correct. We call this spot checking.
And can the listeners of the call tell if a law enforcement officer is doing that?
The listener of the call, I'm sorry?
Can we, as the listeners here in the courtroom, tell if an officer is doing that?
Yes. In certain versions of the software, there's an audible tone to indicate that it's been minimized. There's printouts from the software that tells us when audio was listened to and when it was minimized. And there's just absences in the conversation, blank spaces where that recording did not occur.
And is the portion of the call, so the portion of the call that's minimized then is not recorded?
Correct.
When listening, though, and trying to decide whether something's relevant or irrelevant, are law enforcement officers also on the lookout for suspects trying to mask the meaning of what they're saying in case law enforcement's listening? Maybe they are talking about the crime, but they're using words that don't sound criminal in order to do it.
That's correct.
Is that quite common?
It is, yes.
Which phones were tapped in this case?
Mr. Charlie Adelson's and Ms. Catherine McManus.
And was that Charlie Adelson's phone number ending in 9223 and McManus' phone ending in 1312?
That's correct.
Okay. And who supervised the wiretap in 2016 in this case?
A number of supervisors. I supervised from a technical standpoint to make sure that the information was being received and operating functionally. The case agent supervised the investigative standpoint. It's a representative from the state attorney's office to monitor the legal side of things, and we have to do periodic reports or updates to a judge during the ongoing wire, alerting him of our progress and seeking authorization to continue. So there's a good bit of oversight.
And who keeps or maintains the recordings of the wire calls?
A designated officer.
At TPD?
In this case, yes.
And those recordings, are they stored in a secure manner at TPD?
Yes.
On a few different recorded conversations throughout the wiretap, are you aware of statements made by Charlie Adelson that he does not know who Tudo is?
I am, yes.
In your review of Charlie Adelson's iCloud, like his text messages in the iCloud, were there messages where he and McVanois are having conversations about mundane things, but he says Tudo to her? He refers to Garcia as Tudo.
He does, yes.
So the phone records indicate that despite what Charlie Adelson says on the wire, he did know Garcia's nickname was Tudo?
That would be from the iCloud return, but yes.
Okay. All right. I want to move on to the bump in this case, which the wire calls came after the bump. Can you tell us the date and time of the bump in this case?
So these are the records of Donna Adelson's communication during that time frame. This is 4/19 of 2016, and what we see is the bump happened at 1:47 p.m.
Who was Donna Adelson's first call after the bump? And meaning the bump is when the undercover agent approached her on the street.
The first call was to Charlie Adelson.
Did she call Wendy Adelson or Harvey Adelson during that time?
Immediately after, no.
Did she call Catherine McVanois at any point?
No.
Anyone else associated with this case besides Charlie Adelson?
No.
And when was her first call to Charlie Adelson after the bump?
2:09.
So about a little over 20 minutes later?
Yes.
All right. Was Donna Adelson detained and charged in this case? I believe it was on November 15th of 2023.
Yes.
And we'll get into the details of that later, but what I want to talk about now is whether we were able to, on the day that she was detained and charged, was her cell phone taken by law enforcement and a cell break done on that cell phone?
Yes.
And in the cell phone that was in her possession, was there evidence that Donna Adelson and Wendy Adelson talked about Charlie Adelson's trial, his November 2023 trial, and the verdict as it was happening.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Charlie Adelson's testimony in his trial that Garcia and Rivera killed Dan Markel on their own?
Facts on evidence, counsel's testifying.
Stand as the counsel testifying, please establish a foundation for your questions.
Okay. Judge, may we go to sidebar, please? Thank you.
At this time, we are going to take our lunch break for this morning. Once again, I'm going to instruct you not to discuss this case with each other or any other person. Also, as well, do not look at any other outside information or news on this matter. Members of the jury, I hope you enjoyed your lunchtime rest and break. We will continue with the examination of Sergeant Corbett at this point. Ms. Student, you may continue with your examination.
No further questions at this time. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Sergeant.
Good afternoon.
Now, I believe some of this you covered yesterday, but I just want to clarify a few things. These call detail records, they're generated by the carriers.
That's correct.
They're generated for business purposes of the carrier.
Correct.
So they're generated to, back when I think I got a cell phone, we had a plan with a certain limit. Now they're unlimited, but that was one of the reasons why call detail records were created, correct?
Certainly, billing purposes, yes.
And what about network load?
As far as the creation of records,
Yes.
so network load, there are reports that I spoke about, the kind of specialty reports that are more of an engineering standpoint and are used by carriers to more effectively manage their network. Amongst other things might be load, be something that they would be considering with those records.
Now, the call detail records that you testified about extensively over the last couple of days, they do not contain precise geolocation data for a handset, do they?
The majority of the records that I've spoken about, no, do not.
And specifically, the records that you relied upon for mapping purposes that you displayed earlier.
That is correct. All of the records used for mapping are strictly cell site locations. So the locations that you've seen were for the cell site or cell tower the handset was communicating with, not the cell phone itself.
And using the cell site sector, you can at least identify where on a map a handset could be.
Correct.
And so when you're mapping those dots that are on your maps, those are the cell sites.
That is correct.
They're not the handset.
Correct.
Now, there are variables that influence how a device, a handset, communicates with a network, correct?
Certainly.
Would some of those include the signal strength of the handset?
Signal strength, or really signal quality, is one of the primary things that a handset uses or the network uses to determine which cell site a handset may communicate with. So the signal quality is largely affected by signal strength, as you ask, meaning the closer you are to the tower, the stronger the signal is, generally the better quality the signal is.
Now, what can interfere with a phone or device connecting with a tower?
A number of things, primarily structures, buildings. Here in downtown, we have a number of cell sites around the area, and if you were behind this courthouse, a very large, substantially built building, and there were a cell site on the opposite side, the density of this building would probably prevent your handset from being able to communicate with that cell site, and you may choose a cell site that's somewhere else that your handset is better able to see. Topography, hills, valleys, cell sites that are on the other side of a mountain, your handset may not be able to see or communicate with. Those are really the primary things, bodies of water, but the physical obstruction, topography is probably, to me, the greatest effect.
What about network load? on a specific cell site?
So load can be a factor. The handsets, as they're creating energy, this radio frequency, the signals that are going back and forth, it is a bit of noise. And so the towers, if there's a lot of handsets, that can create a lot of noise, which can affect that signal quality that I've been speaking about. So towers can choose to adjust. Breathing is sometimes what it's called, but there may be an adjustment by the tower or the network. If there is high density, then handsets can communicate with other cell sites. Generally, no matter where you are, your handset is able to see multiple cell sites and sectors at the same time. And there's a lot that goes into the choice of particularly which one of those your handset is directed to communicate with for any particular event.
So merely because a handset is communicating with a specific cell tower, cell site, and sector, that doesn't mean that that's the closest one to that handset.
That's correct.
Do the call detour records that you have relied on in this case take into consideration whether or not a tower is under maintenance or partially functioning or otherwise operating at a reduced capacity?
Only in the respect that if it were not functioning, then it would not be listed in the records. If it were not operational, the handset would not be able to communicate with it. So when I see a cell site and sector in the records, I know that it was operational because the handset did in fact communicate with that.
But there's no way to tell from the call detour records that you relied on here whether or not a specific cell site was partially functioning.
I don't know exactly what you mean by partially functional.
Or was it were any of them operating at reduced capacity? You can't tell that from the call detail records, can you?
I could not tell the load or the capacity on the tower at any particular time, no.
And so you just listed a number of factors that can affect call routing and cell site selection, right?
I did, yes.
Now those same factors can influence when a call is handed off to another cell site, correct?
They can, yes.
And so not only in this instance do we have a handset that is moving on a highway, but you also have those other factors that could influence what cell site the handset is communicating with.
That's correct.
And understanding all of those variables, that's critical to you analyzing and interpreting the data.
It is, yes.
And so would you agree that the analysis that you conduct has some inherent limitations?
It certainly has limitations as far as nothing in the analysis that I've done is meant to say exactly where a handset is. We're unable to do that. Again, I talked about inclusion and exclusion, that we know the general service area of a cell site, and so we include and exclude locations. But the limitation to the effect of we cannot say exactly where a handset is correct.
So in other words, it involves some degree of estimation or inference?
I would agree with that, yes.
Now, could you pull up the presentation that you were showing us earlier?
I do have it, yes.
I want you to turn, let's start with one thing that the state brought out. Let's go to the frequency report. I believe it's on slide 28.
Slide 28, the frequency report for Donna Adelson.
Okay. Can you explain to the jury again the process of creating this report? I believe what you said yesterday was that you put the data from the carrier into a tool.
A program, yes.
Okay. And then you did the same for Charlie Adelson's CDRs?
Correct.
Catherine McDaniel?
Correct.
Sigfredo Garcia?
Yes.
Luis Rivera?
Yes.
Anyone else?
Really, most any set of records that we had, the frequency report is one of the first things and most basic things that we do with the records.
Now, there's a process that you have to go through called, I believe it's called deduping. Are you familiar with that?
It depends on which way you're referring to it.
Well, when you're talking about call detail records and frequency analysis, there's a way, and I think you gave us an example yesterday on some of your slides about how one communication event can show up multiple times.
Correct. So we do see with certain carriers that a call that comes in that is routed maybe to voicemail creates multiple events, and it creates multiple records, and some of those will be tied to the same number. Some of them are tied to kind of a not fictitious, but a routing phone number, so they will really count against the frequency for a particular target. But as I mentioned, these frequency reports are very general ideas of relationships and associations. So for these, we mentioned that it does include things like miscommunications, calls that went to voicemail. It may include the multiple events, because those things are generally distributed equally across all the calls. It's not just one phone that's going to create those multiple entries. All phones calling in should create about the same things. So it's certainly not meant to be an exact number of communications. It's just an idea of, again, kind of relevance and association.
Okay, so in that vein, if you could look at, let's see. So let's look at, I believe it was slide 122.
Yes.
Okay, now with respect to this slide, have you gone into the data and manually removed duplicate events?
I have, yes.
Have you done the same for slides 26 and 28?
Slide 26 is the frequency report for Charlie Adelson, and I believe that 28 is, again, Donna Adelson's. No, I have not removed duplicate events from these frequency reports.
Okay. So those aren't accurate?
They are accurate. They accurately represent from the call detail records every time that cell phone number appeared in the records.
Okay, there's a poorly worded question, I apologize. It's not accurate in the sense that there are not 80 actual communications between my client and her son.
There may be fewer. Again, this includes those routed events, the not answered, going to voicemail. All of those are included. Text messages, voice calls, all of those are included in this tallying. It is just from the raw records.
Okay. And so in other words, you see the 80 up there. You recall, I believe it's the AT&T records, could have 3 separate events for one communication. Is that correct?
They could. That would generally only tally 2 for a particular phone number, because that third event is generally going to have a routing phone number in it.
Okay. And so this does not account for that?
It does not.
I believe on slide 98, if you turn to that. Can you keep going? It might have been the next one. Erase this text after you read it. Was the text erased?
The text was still in the iCloud return, so I could not tell you if it was deleted from the device or not.
You never got the handset that iCloud is associated with.
That is correct.
And that would be Charlie's phone.
Correct.
Slide 116. Looks like on this one there are 2 conversations between Charlie Adelson and Catherine McBanawell, correct?
One is an attempt. So as it says, Charlie attempts Catherine. This was an inbound that I don't believe was answered, or that any actual communications occurred.
Well, okay, so the one event, we don't know what was discussed, do we?
We do not know.
Slide 117. We don't know what was discussed between Charlie and whomever he was speaking with at the Adelson residence, do we?
We do not.
119. We don't know what was discussed between Harvey Adelson and Charlie Adelson.
We do not.
120. We don't know what was discussed between Catherine and Charlie, do we?
We do not.
And we don't have the content of the text messages the data indicates took place.
That's correct.
Now, with respect to the calls to the landline, do you know anything about the signal strength for the Adelson residents in Coral Springs, as far as their ability to connect with local towers back in 2014?
I only know what I have seen from looking at different sets of records. I know that their handsets have events with location that are consistent with their home on a fairly regular basis. I can do analysis and determine if the handsets are home or not. So as to whether that's great signal or not, there are a number of events their handsets are creating with cell sites near their residence that will be consistent with their residence.
I know that there are parts of my house where I can have a conversation, but if I walk into the garage, I don't have a good signal. You don't know where in the house that they were to have any sort of conversation in their home.
I do not.
Now, if you could go to 135. So during this 36 to 48 hour period, does the 7 communications or attempted communications between Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson indicate a spike?
I would not say so, no.
Okay. And for what time period did you review their records?
We have records that span years, and they are a little different for each person. For some we have several months, for some we have years worth of records. So I have looked at periods of time for their records spanning several years.
Okay, now specific as to Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson, you have at least 4 or 5 years worth of records for them?
Probably that many, yes.
If not more.
Possibly, yes.
And so the amount of communications or attempted communications that are indicated during the June 2nd and June 4th, as you refer to it, flurry of communications, 7 is not a spike.
I do not consider it an abnormally high number of communications.
Now, same with respect to the July trip. Can you advance to that slide, please? Now, again, this is approximately 38 hours time period?
Correct.
The 4 communications or attempted communications between my client and her son, those do not represent a spike, do they?
They do not.
And so the flurry of communications that you testified to earlier, at least as it pertains to my client and her son, did not take place, did it?
I'm not sure where the characterization of a flurry came from. I don't believe that I used the term call flurry. We were looking at calling analysis or calling activity during certain periods of time. And the only question being asked of these of the analysis in this time frame is, was there the potential for the exchange of information from one person to the other? And that's what we see, that there is communication from one person to the other across the subjects during a time frame that may be more significant than others. It's not meant to reflect a high volume or a different tempo of communication, just that there is at least the potential for the exchange of information.
Now, let's talk about the emails briefly. Go to slide 140, please. Now, you testified this morning that this was sent out. Now, Evite is an online platform where anyone can go in and create an event and send out invitations, correct?
That's correct.
Back in 2014, do you have any personal knowledge as to how that website operated?
In 2014, I do not.
And I believe that you indicated that there was an indication that Donna Adelson was unfamiliar with that process.
Correct.
As we sit here today, you cannot testify that Donna Adelson created that event on evite.com, can you?
I can only testify as to the email where she asked if her invitations had been sent yet, and where she describes how she entered the contacts, how she entered the invitees as contacts. That's the only thing that I can take from that email.
Now, also with respect to the emails, there were quite a few search warrants done for email accounts in this case, correct?
Yes.
How many emails were recovered during this investigation?
How, like, total number?
Yes.
Hundreds of thousands.
Specific as to donnahardy@gmail.com, how many emails were recovered?
I do not recall the total amount.
In excess of 50,000?
I believe so, yes.
In excess of 70,000?
I don't recall, and I've only seen a subset of those.
Who decided
Emails.
what subset you would review?
Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
Let's look at slide 143. And you testified earlier that this was an email from Dan Markel to Wendy Adelson in January of 2024 concerning their schedule with the kids beginning in April.
January of 2014, but yes.
Yes, sorry. Are you also aware that there were subsequent emails and text messages between the two of them where this schedule changed or was modified?
I'm not aware of any changes or modifications.
So you have not reviewed them, or you're not aware of them?
I'm not aware of them. I have not seen anything. I have not done a great deal of research into the schedule with the children, but I am, as I sit here, not aware of any changes.
How did you decide to put this email in the presentation?
The emails are reviewed by whomever is investigating the case, assisting to investigate. They're provided to the state attorney's office for a determination as to what should be included in the presentation.
With respect to Wendy Adelson's phone, are there different types of extractions that can be done on these devices?
Yes, there are different sort of levels of forensic examinations that can be done, yes.
And what are those levels?
Well, it kind of varies by device, by time period, by forensic tool, but we generally talk about a logical extraction where we're we're taking the majority of information we can get access to kind of in a logical fashion. If this appears to be a text message, it's a text message. A phone call is a phone call. It is not as thorough as generally what we may consider a file system or a full file system extraction. So those are kind of the basics.
Okay. Which one is preferable when conducting an investigation?
We want the most detailed that we can get.
And the most detailed for most handsets is going to be a full extraction, correct?
It would be, but there are a number of things that may prohibit us from getting that full file system or full extraction. Encryption, passwords that cannot be broken, phones that are not supported by forensic tools. We frequently want the full extraction, but are unable to get it.
Now let's talk about Wendy Adelson's phone. Her phone was searched pursuant to consent, correct?
I believe that's correct.
And there were no limitations to that consent.
I am not the one who obtained the consent or did the examination, so I don't believe there were, but I don't have firsthand knowledge of that.
Okay, well, I believe, are you aware that Wendy Adelson gave a lengthy statement to investigators?
Yes.
During the course of that interview, she voluntarily provided her cell phone for extraction.
Again, I believe that is correct.
And are you aware that she put any limitations on that extraction?
I'm not aware of any limitations.
And so, what type of extraction was done on her device?
A logical extraction.
And as we've discussed, a logical extraction is not a complete extraction from a device.
It generally has less information, correct?
In this case, if you look at the extraction, the forensic extraction, there's significantly less data in her phone extraction than in other devices' extractions in this case.
Yes. Yes, there is less data, But that may be an indication of less data on her device as well.
I want to talk about the morning of July 18th of 2014. I didn't write down the slide number, but you indicated earlier that, and you had a slide that Wendy called Donna, Donna called Wendy. Can you pull that up?
I can.
Thank you. What slide number is this?
This is slide 196.
Thank you. So slide 196, your analysis reveals that Wendy called her mother first, correct?
Well, these calls are, as noted, at the same time. So they're both at 8:09. And one of the limitations we have with some of the sets of records we have is that some were provided with only hours and minutes of call, and some were provided with hours, minutes, and seconds. So these calls actually occurred in the same minute, but it's possible that Donna's call was first.
Don't you have records that indicate seconds?
We do have records that indicate
Specific
seconds.
for this day?
I don't know if we have specific for this day. We have multiple sets of records and multiple overlapping sets of records.
You have been involved in this case since its inception, since Mr. Markel was murdered, correct?
Yes.
And it's typically in your field best to use records that have more data rather than less, correct?
Generally, yes.
Okay. Have you gone back to determine who called whom first?
I have not, but I could.
And so if I were to tell you that records with seconds reveal that Donna Adelson gets a call from Geek Squad and immediately calls her daughter, and then while Donna is calling her daughter, Geek Squad calls her daughter, would that also be consistent with both calls happening at 8:09?
Yes.
And by using the records with more information, you would be able to present this in an accurate order, would you not?
They both indicate the time of 8:09 for the calls, and as discussed or as presented, hopefully, that there was a phone tag that occurred here at 8:09. And so that, yes.
I believe you had moved to slide 210. Now this is after the text message exchange between Wendy Adelson and Dan Markel, correct?
Correct.
And that's the one where after Mr. Markel had left a voicemail for Wendy, Wendy texts him and saying, "Swimming won't work today because I'm picking the kids up at 3:30.
Correct.
And then they kind of have a disagreement about the time that Wendy can pick the boys up.
They do.
After Wendy gets that information from Mr. Markel, she then calls her brother.
Correct?
She didn't call her mother.
No.
Now, I believe after this call between Wendy and Charlie, I think it's on slide 213, he tries to call Donna.
Correct.
30 seconds, that indicates to you that the call did not connect.
More than likely.
I believe, you go to slide 272. So the text, I believe that the state inadvertently mischaracterized the evidence and testimony in the questioning. The last connection to a cell tower for Donna Adelson was at 8:59, not 8:35, correct?
For 8:59, for location, like location that we would use?
Yes.
I don't recall an 8:59 event.
Okay. I'm sorry. So you have the 8:59 as the text message,
That's correct.
and that's from Charlie Adelson's iCloud,
That is correct.
and you don't get location from that.
We do not. And so, probably important to point out, some of these are chats, so they're actually occurring over the data network. They're iMessage. versus carrier-based text messaging, where we're more likely to see locations associated with text. So with the iCloud, and knowing that those are traversing the iMessage or the Apple network, it's common for us not to have locations attached to those.
So in that regard, iMessages aren't going to show up in call detail records.
They do not.
Other apps, communication apps, are not going to show up in call detail records.
That's correct.
Now this tragedy took place a little over 11 years ago, correct?
Yes.
And up until your July 10th, 2025 deposition, you had not done the drive yourself, had you?
That's correct.
Did you do any research to determine what construction had taken place at I-95 between July 18th of 2014 and July 18th of 2025?
I-95 where?
Where you drove?
Not the, I know that there was a number of changes to I-95 at the area where it separates from the turnpike, the Florida Turnpike. I did specifically look at the turnpike in relation to Mr. Adelson's residence to make sure that there had been no changes in the roadway there.
Okay, so the turnpike, it's your testimony that in the last 11 years, the turnpike in that area has not been widened?
I don't recall it's been widened. The off-ramp is in the same location. The aerial photography is exactly the same for that exchange. And again, the drive was done because there was a question raised somewhere along the way about the ability to get off the turnpike and to Mr. Adelson's residence. And so just to clarify that, and that more research was done. And so again, looking at that, there's been a number of changes around that area. Water drainage has been filled in, buildings have been built, all kinds of things have happened, but the roadway itself remains the same.
So again, my question is, has the road been widened? Has there been construction?
There may have been construction and replacement, and I can say with certainty, and I can look at it again, but with certainty the routes, the off-ramps, the exchanges are in the same position that they are. If the lanes are a little wider, there was no significant change in anything about getting off the turnpike and getting over to Mr. Adelson's road.
Sergeant Corbett, I don't know if I'm asking a poor question or you're misunderstanding. Has there been construction on the turnpike in the last 11 years?
I'm sure there has, yes.
Did you do anything to determine if that had happened?
Yes.
Okay. And yet, you're still giving us a qualified answer.
You're asking about widening. I don't recall seeing, and again, the area that I looked at was the turnpike, the off-ramp of the turnpike, the exchange that goes to the east, and then connects with Mr. Adelson's road. There were no changes to that. If the turnpike was widened somewhere, that may be possible. I did not look for that. Again, I'm looking for the path of travel had not changed.
So you looked for records that would be consistent with the state's theory to establish that the route hadn't been altered in any way.
The question raised was, can you get off the turnpike and get to Charlie Adelson's residence? And the answer is yes.
Now, what were the traffic conditions on July 18th of 2014?
I do not know.
Did you do anything to try to find that out?
I did.
And what did you do?
I tried to research through Department of Transportation if they had traffic and crash data going back that far, and I did not find any.
Is that because the retention period had been exceeded?
Most likely, yes.
What is a retention period?
I do not know the exact retention period.
No. Tell us, what is a retention period?
I'm sorry. A retention period would be a policy of a holder of information for how long they hold that. And so carriers have retention periods for their cell phone records. It may be 1 year, and after 1 year they purge that data. Could be 2 years, could be 10 years, but that retention period or is a policy for how long they retain records.
And so, as we sit here today, do you know the retention period for DHS&B to keep accident records?
I do not.
What about construction records for I-95 and the Turnpike?
I do not.
Did you do anything to collect construction records for I-95 or the Turnpike between July 18th of 2014 and the present day?
No.
How many lanes were on 95 between my client's residence in Miami Beach and her son's residence back in 2014?
I do not know the exact number.
What about now?
It varies. There were 6 or more in certain places. There was construction going on when I drove.
What about the Turnpike? How many lanes were on the Turnpike back in 2014?
Again, varies by the location where you're at, but 2 to 3 in any direction.
And what about now?
Same now. I'll say same now. Depending upon where we're talking about, so I'm looking at a very narrow stretch of the Turnpike. Talk about the Turnpike in its entirety, I'm sure it's undergone a lot of changes.
Now, when you did this drive, you had gas in your car, correct?
I did.
You did not have to stop for gas while you're doing this test drive, did you?
During those particular sessions or sections, no, I did not.
You had snacks with you?
I did.
So you didn't have to stop for snacks?
I did not have to.
Did you stop for any meals along the way during this drive test?
During these particular sessions or sections of road travel, no, I did not.
And there's a reason I'm going to ask this question. How old were you at the time you did this test?
55.
So not in your 60s, not in your 70s.
Not quite.
Now, have you ever been on the highway and got behind a slow-moving vehicle? It frustrates you, right?
It may, yes.
And you have an opportunity to pass them, you drive by and you see someone older driving.
Sometimes, yes.
Do you know how fast Harvey and Donna Adelson were driving on July 18th of 2014?
I do not.
And so, not knowing how fast they are driving, can you give an accurate estimate for how long the drive would take them?
I think I can give an accurate estimate based on speed limit and distance, but as far as how which is, I believe, substantiated by segments of travel. So the travel from the 832 point to Charlie Adelson's was very consistent with the estimations. The travel from 1053 to the hotel, consistent with estimations.
I want to stop you right there. The 1053 point, can you pull that up, please?
I believe it's actually here.
Go to the next slide or series where we show 1053 to Orlando. That section of the Turnpike is not as in an area that is as densely populated as the section to the south, is it?
It's not.
No. And so the section south on the Turnpike, you're going to get more commuter traffic than you will in this section, correct?
I would agree with that, yes.
And so you're not going to necessarily be in as stop and go traffic as you would if you were to the south.
Usually, yes, I would agree with that.
Do you know whether or not at the time Donna and Harvey Adelson left their apartment in Miami Beach to start driving north, had they eaten dinner?
I do not know.
Did they have a full tank of gas?
Do not know.
How many times did they stop to go to the bathroom?
Do not know.
Did they stop to get coffee?
They may have.
This was late night.
I did.
And you're much younger than they were at the time. You stopped for coffee.
I did.
Sergeant Corbett, you just made a statement that I believe your deposition testimony contradicted. You said the time that it would take to get from their residence to Charlie Adelson's residence. Can you, with the call detail records, place my client, Donna Adelson's handset at Charlie Adelson's residence on July 18th of 2014?
From cell site locations in the records? No.
And at no point on July 18th of 2014, can you place Donna Adelson's handset and or Harvey Adelson's handset connecting to the same cell site at the same time as Charlie Adelson's handset?
That's correct.
So from the call detail records, you cannot testify, you cannot tell this jury that my client was at her son's house.
That's correct.
Nothing further.
Yes, sir. Did the text messages place Donna Adelson at Charlie Adelson's house?
I believe the outside your house text message is indicative of her being outside his house.
Okay, that's what Donna Adelson tells us in that text message, right?
I believe so, yes.
And then she has an hour and 6 minutes, was it, of unaccounted for time on the stretch of the drive that's on the same stretch of the drive where Charlie Adelson's house is, right?
Correct.
You got lots of... And did you do this drive in 2025 because the defense questioned the fact that you hadn't done it, didn't know if you could do it in the 2025 depo?
There was a question as to who raised it. I'm not certain.
Okay, thank you. You got lots of questions about construction on the turnpike. Defense asked if their client could have gotten stopped for that extra hour that's unaccounted for in construction. Did Donna Adelson tell us in that text message where she stopped on the drive? Did she say she was outside of Charlie Adelson's house?
Agreed.
Okay, and then Charlie Adelson gave her his estimated time of arrival at the house for 10 minutes from then. Is that right?
Correct.
If the Adelsons were just driving really slow on that first part of the drive where they have over an hour of unaccounted for time, would they then have had to speed up to normal cruising speed for the second part of the drive where they made it from the 1053 location to Orlando in consistent with a consistent amount of time as the estimated time that we see on Esri?
Yes. The second part of that, the second half, if we'll call it, of the trip was done at close to the estimated time. So the speed and travel were close to what would be expected. The first half of that trip, it was not.
Okay. And when you did the drive and went from the 832 or 834 location?
Yes, one of those.
One of
Before
those two.
before the end of the 835 call.
Okay. 834 location. When you did that drive, were you able to get on the same day of the week, the same time of Friday night, from that point to Charlie Adelson's house in the estimated amount of time?
I was, yes.
Okay. And same with the second part of the drive, from Charlie Adelson's house to the 1053 location. Was that consistent with the estimated time from Esri?
With just a few minutes, yes. Or within just a few minutes.
All right. And you would have been driving in the same conditions in North Miami, same date, same time of day as the Adelsons drove in 2014.
As close as I could get.
And did you say in this the emails for the Evite that Donna Adelson told Evite that she entered the invitees as contacts?
Correct.
In the beginning of cross-examination, defense asked you a bit about the things that could affect cell site towers, several variables that could affect cell site towers, but if those variables existed that affected these cell site towers and kept the cell site towers from having too much load to be able to handle this communication, would we see phone communication with those cell site towers in the records as we do?
Again, if the tower was not operational, no, the handset is not going to communicate with it. But those things, again, when we're talking about the inclusion and exclusion, where a handset could be, we're aware that there may be cell sites that are closer, that may be stronger, bigger, taller, and all of that we take into consideration when we estimate the area that might be consistent with where the handset was.
Is there anything in the records that caused you to believe these records or analysis is unreliable in any way?
No.
Just a second.
Sergeant, you may step down. Finally.
Thanks, sir.
Will this Very well. Please call your next witness.